Chapter 206. Chuyang escaped in a sorry state. GMO and the others followed him out, laughing and laughing. I say boss, this Miss Wu is really good looking. Luo Kadi clicked his tongue in admiration. This young master has seen countless women, but even in the upper three heavens, there are only a few who can compare to her. She's a top-grade beauty? Chu Yang's face darkened as he ran. Boss, I think this Miss Wu is quite interested in you. She actually doesn't allow you to fool around. GMO leaned over and said with shifty eyes, I think you two have an affair. What affair? Chuyang said angrily. GMO shrank back in fear when he glared at him. Actually, this Miss Wu is not bad. Gu Duxing followed from the side and said lightly, she likes you a lot, we can all see this. If you can consider it. Chuyang sighed. Even he himself didn't know when Wu Qianqian's impression of him changed. But what kind of person was Chuyang? How could he not sense it? He had always been cold to this matter. This was something that he couldn't respond to. But he couldn't reject it even more. Because Wu Qianqian didn't make it clear and always maintained the attitude of a silent bystander. She liked him in secret. Chuyang couldn't do anything about it. I didn't say I liked you and I never showed it to you. Are you going to reject me if I like you in my heart? So Chuyang could only pretend to be confused. Hearing Gu Duxing's words, Chuyang sighed and said, how could I not know? But I'm not in the mood to talk about love. Why not? GMO leaned over again, talking about love while doing business while practicing martial arts. Isn't that great? Get lost. Chuyang said angrily, one more word and you'll return my sword. GMO shrank back and didn't say anything. After hanging out with him for so long, this guy was getting more and more shameless. Only this sentence could threaten him now. If he said, one more word and I'll make you purple and red. Maybe this guy will say, come on, I've been itching these days. You have someone in your heart? Gu Duxing asked thoughtfully. This was the only reason that could explain why Chuyang was able to resist the pursuit of such a peerless and alluring beauty. Yes. Chuyang nodded. Who is it? Gu Duxing's eyes widened. Have I seen him before? You must have seen it before. Chuyang smiled mysteriously. I've seen it before? Gu Duxing was really confused this time. He began to think hard about the beauties he had seen before. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. He really couldn't remember. The problem was that no matter who it was, there was no such thing as a beauty in Gu Duxing's eyes. There were only two words, women. Yes, all women are the same. So what if I already have someone in my heart? Luo Kadi snorted and happily suggested, a real man having 3 wives and 4 concubines is the most normal thing. Even if your heart belongs to someone else and is completely occupied by one person, it will not affect the firmness of your lower body. Get lost. Chuyang and Gu Duxing shouted at the same time. Then they kicked out together. Luo Kadi flew out as if he was riding a cloud. I can't think of anything. Gu Duxing frowned and maintained his kicking posture. Well then keep it to yourself. Chuyang smiled strangely. He really didn't have the mood to talk about love right now. Mo Qingwu's matter was pressing on his heart for 2 generations. If Chuyang and Wu Qian were to serve each other now, then Chuyang's obsession after his rebirth would become as worthless as bubbles. How far is that house of exceptional beauties? Luo Kadi ran back covered in snow and tactfully changed the topic. Not far. With our speed we'll be there in an hour. Chuyang said seriously, however there's something I need to tell you in advance. The background of House of Exceptional Beauties is extremely mysterious, but also extremely powerful. Don't think that just because you're from the 3 heavens, you can disdain House of Exceptional Beauties. I'm guessing that the background of House of Exceptional Beauties is definitely not weaker than your clans. Gu Duxing, GMO, Luo Kadi and Ji Butong all revealed interested expressions at the same time. They looked at each other and smiled thoughtfully. Fuck. Luo Kadi was shocked. This is House of Exceptional Beauties? Isn't this a little too grand? Not only him, even Chuyang and Gu Duxing were a little shocked. It had been snowing for 4 consecutive days but it did not melt at all. All of Ironcloud Citadel and even the Royal Palace had accumulated snow, but in this House of Exceptional Beauties, there was not a single speck of snow within a radius of a few hundred feet. It was clean and clean. In fact, the ground was very dry. Even the roof was clean and tidy. The only place with snow was in the garden. There were many trees that were not afraid of the cold. The snow contrasted with the green trees, creating a dreamy fairy tale feeling. 2 strings of red lanterns hung down from the roof. The surroundings would be covered in snow and ice, but only this place was dry and crisp. Under such a strong contrast, it was as if this place did not belong to the human world. There were constantly young men in embroidered clothes coming in and out. There were also some fat merchants dragging their heavy bellies as they walked in. This place is really lively. Luo Kudi's eyes lit up. He smelled the fragrance of cosmetics carried by the cold wind. His nose twitched as he said in an intoxicated manner, "Oh my God, it's as warm as spring. When I come here I feel like a fish in water. Let's go in." Chuyang was really surprised for a moment, but he quickly recovered. Just as he was about to go in, he suddenly felt that something was not right. He could not help but be startled. His ears perked up to listen, but he did not find anything. He immediately turned his head and looked at the path he came from. Then he followed Gu Duxing and the others in. More than 100 feet behind him, on top of a big pine tree, a green-clothed man silently appeared. His eyes were filled with dissatisfaction as he muttered, "This little bastard, he actually went to the brothel with his gang?" Then he frowned and muttered, "Damn it, it was so hard to find him, but how could it be so? That piece of purple crystal jade essence, he did not seem to have it on him. Could it be that I really found the wrong person?" Thinking about this, the man in blue was very angry. He did not even see the person in question and was chased out by the old master. "You did not see the jade essence? If you did not see the jade essence, why the hell did you come back to report?" At that time the old master raised his walking stick and almost broke his own spine. "Bastard! Tell me, what else can you do? You can't even find a person. There were hundreds of messages, and each time your big brother and sister-in-law could not wait to go, and each time your sister-in-law came back crying. Can't you do something that you are confident in?" Master, I suspect that this is definitely—" "You suspect? You suspect your grandmother?" The old master roared, 135 times, "You said it was definitely the case every time. This time it is really too similar. Really, that expression, that face. You said the same thing the 135 times. Master, you, scram. This time it is really, scram? Still not scram. Fine. Seeing that the walking stick was about to hit him again, the man in blue covered his head and ran away. He only heard the old master roar, "If you can't find the real one, every time you come back, I will drown you in a cesspool." Thinking about this, the man in blue's face became bitter. After he came back with his report, he went straight to Ironcloud Citadel. He spent a few days searching the entire Ironcloud Citadel. It was not until Chu Yang left Heavenly Armament Pavilion this morning that he coincidentally found Chu Yang. Even with his speed and martial power, he was so tired that he almost fell down. "There is still no news of the purple crystal. Did he also take the one I gave him? How could the man in blue give up?" He dared to swear that the young man he had found this time was absolutely identical to his elder brother. Even more so than the 135 from before. Plus, that expression was even more similar. Plus, his mouth was like sister-in-law's. Unfortunately, the clan was very busy this time. He could not see his big brother and sister-in-law. He did see his grandfather, but with his temper, it was better not to see him. Sigh Green Flail. "I hate this kind of place the most." The green-clothed man heaved a long sigh and flew over. The best thing to do now was to follow this young man and find out little by little. Of course, if he could find that piece of jade, that would be the best. "Ayaya, you have not come for a long time. What a coincidence, today is the big day of the House of Exceptional Beauties. Please, ladies, come and welcome our guests." Once Chu Yang and the others entered the door, they were immediately greeted by a fat woman in her 30s or 40s with heavy makeup. Her face was full of smiles. "Ugh." GMO retched and angrily said, "Isn't this the House of Exceptional Beauties? You call this a beauty? This is old amiable, you idiot." Gu Duxing looked at this self-proclaimed Master GMO, with a face full of astonishment. She was rather surprised by this fellow's fussing. GMO's face turned red and he said, "I thought old AI was also a beauty? Get lost, you bastard. Why would a beauty be an old dove?" Luo Kudi's nose was up in the air and he was disdainful of GMO. The three of them sang the same tune as if there was no one else around. Hearing this, old AI's face turned red and then white. He was so ashamed that he could not show his face. At this time, 5 girls in white appeared from the door and said in unison, "Welcome, my 5 lords." Then he walked up with a faint and amiable smile on his face. Each of them took one of the girls and accompanied them inside. When these 5 girls came out, even Chu Yang could not help but praise them. Not bad. These 5 girls were naturally not beauties, but each of them was delicate and pretty. Regardless of body shape or face, they were all top-notch. Their faces were lightly made up and their eyes were clear. They did not look like prostitutes. Chapter 207. At this moment, Chuyang and Gu Duxing heard the sound of panting. It seemed to be a nervous kind. They turned their heads to look and did not know whether to laugh or cry. If it were not for their strong willpower, they would have burst out laughing while holding their bellies. The two men, GMO and Luo Kadi, who boasted that they had seen all kinds of flowers and had spent their entire lives with makeup, were held by the young girls beside them. Both of them had their heads held high, their chests puffed out and their backs straightened. Their bodies were actually somewhat stiff. Although they tried hard to maintain a calm expression on their faces, one could faintly see that they were nervous. Especially GMO. The tip of his nose was sweating. How was this the behavior of a man who had seen many flowers and was unrestrained? GMO, Gu Duxing called out. GMO did not hear anything. Since his arm was being held by the girl in white, he was completely at a loss. GMO. Gu Duxing raised his voice. Oh, I'm here. GMO regained his senses. How is this place compared to the ones you have seen? Gu Duxing held back his laughter. It's okay. Although it's not as good as, it's just so. GMO tried his best to put on an expert look. He blushed and said, back then when I was at home, I didn't spend that day in this kind of place. This kind of small scene is simply not worth mentioning. GMO is a person who has seen many big scenes. How is he like us? We don't even know how to walk. Chuyang said calmly. Haha. The girl holding GMO's arm could not help but laugh. She immediately knew that something was wrong. She hurriedly covered her mouth and rolled her eyes. The other girls also showed a smile on their faces. They were here every day. How could they not know? For people like GMO and Luo Kadi, they had never been here before, not to mention that they had been here for a long time. Only teenagers who visited a brothel for the first time would have this kind of behavior. Even if it was the second time, they would not be so nervous. This guy actually dared to boast shamelessly that when he was at home, he didn't spend a single day in a place like this. This kind of words, it was simply terrifying. Gu Duxing tried hard to hold back his laughter as he said, so that's how it is. Since Master GMO is so familiar with this place, why don't you introduce it to us? There's no need for an introduction. GMO acted as if he had a card up his sleeve. He lowered his voice and said, when I bring you into the room, you just need to take off your pants. Ha ha ha. Gu Duxing gave him a thumbs up. You're really something. He turned around and left, laughing wildly. Others might not know, but how could Gu Duxing not know? The word, lust, was the most taboo word in the three heavens. Especially these two dukes who were very talented in martial arts. Which clan didn't have high hopes for them? No matter what kind of martial arts it was, the premature release of one's primordial yang was an irreparable loss. It would also affect one's lifetime achievements. If these people didn't achieve much, then it basically meant that the future of the family wasn't very bright. Under such circumstances, GMO and the others wanted to visit a brothel? That was like a dream. If his family found out about this, it would be strange if he wasn't skinned alive. The so-called hedonistic sons were generally good-for-nothings in the family. But those who were important to the main family of the real big clans were definitely. They couldn't be hedonistic sons. Because of the strict requirements of the family, the strict rewards and punishments, and the terrible self-discipline that they had cultivated since childhood, they couldn't be hedonistic sons. There was a saying that big clans often produced hedonistic sons. Regarding this saying, Gu Duxing and Chuyang snorted disdainfully. Hedonistic sons were only produced by some big clans, low-class clans without any foundation. If the heirs of those big clans really became hedonistic sons, then, how could these clans stand tall for thousands of years? Wouldn't they have been destroyed long ago? The story of turning over a new leaf was suitable for ordinary people, but it definitely wasn't suitable for the heirs of big clans. Because if they took one wrong step, they wouldn't be able to turn back for the rest of their lives. Even if they turned back, they would never be able to return to their original position. Therefore, they didn't believe that GMO and Luo Kadi were pretending to be brothel regulars. After entering, they found that there was actually a huge hall inside. In the middle of the hall, there was a huge charcoal stove. The color of the charcoal inside was very bright, and the whole hall was as warm as spring. Bursts of loud chatter could be heard. At the end of the hall, there was a platform 3 feet above the ground. The top of the platform was covered by a hazy curtain, allowing you to see inside but not clearly. Behind the curtain, there was a simple and unadorned zither. Inside, there were already many people sitting as if they were waiting for something. At the place closest to the stage there were actually 5 young men clustered around. The loud voices were coming from them. "This is a brothel?" Luo Kadi finally exclaimed in surprise. "A brothel is like this?" His voice was slightly louder and everyone couldn't help but glare at him. At this time, a woman in her 30s leisurely came out and walked up to the high platform. Although this woman was slightly older, she was graceful and graceful. Her every move exuded a noble demeanor. In the hall, the voices were uniformly silent. "Everyone, we will now begin our routine for the day." This woman smiled sweetly, and her eyes were like flowing spring water. She looked at everyone in the hall and said, "As everyone knows, Miss Xiaolu's zither skills are peerless, and she has the reputation of heavenly zither music. I wonder if everyone is interested in hearing it?" Yes. Everyone raised their arms and shouted. Moreover, Miss Xiaolu is in a good mood today. She said that if anyone can successfully invite her out, and if they can solve 3 difficult musical problems, they can enter Miss Xiaolu's room. Miss Xiaolu will play a song for him alone, and they will have dinner together. Moreover, from then on, he will be an honored guest of the House of Exceptional Beauties. "Wow!" everyone exclaimed. Obviously this condition was very tempting. "Who is this Miss Xiaolu?" Gu Duxing's expression became cold and he said, "She actually has such a big fight." Jianghu and Luo Kudi were angry at the same time. "You don't know Miss Xiaolu?" Someone on the side mocked. "Then what are you doing here?" It was as if not knowing Miss Xiaolu was too ignorant and inexperienced. Sure enough, everyone in the hall had a fanatical expression. Obviously they were all here for Miss Xiaolu. "Do you know about the Battle of the 3 Masters that occurs every 20 years in the Heaven Realm?" Chu Yang smiled bitterly. "Battle of the 3 Masters? The moon and lotus flowers are beautiful, the 3 Masters meet. Who will ascend the heavenly palace, who will be the champion?" Chu Yang softly recited. "The flute immortal drifts on the water, the flute sage quietly travels on the boat. The sound of the zither gently descends from the heavens, the vicissitudes of life paint the spring and autumn. 20 years of wind and rain, who will not fall, 20 years of wind and frost, who will remain?" Originally, in the Heaven Realm, there were masters. Each of them had their own unique musical skills, and they had reached the peak. I don't know when this person suddenly wanted to compete for the title of number 1 in the world, so they began to compete. At that time, in Great Zhao's capital Lotus Lake, there were many spectators. After a round of competition, the 8 people were evenly matched, but the Shengju was defeated and withdrew, becoming one of the 8 masters. Masters are passed down from generation to generation, and the remaining 8 people were equally matched. Moreover, they had already reached the peak, and it was difficult for them to take another step forward. Therefore they agreed to fight again 20 years later at this time and place. However, the opponent's younger brother would fight. 20 years later, there was another descendant who was not skilled enough and withdrew, becoming a master. Until now there are still 3 masters. That is, the flute, and the zither. Next year there will be another 20 years, and it will be time for the final battle of the 3 masters. The final number 1 in the world will be decided. And this Miss Xiaolu is the only successor of the zither master. Chu Yang slowly said. Although it is only the flute, and the zither, and not martial arts, the fame and influence of the 3 masters in the world is enormous. It is estimated that next year Great Zhao will have a headache for a long time. Chu Yang said this, and the corner of his mouth revealed a strange smile. But what does the vicissitudes of life paint the spring and autumn mean? Of course, it is the clan of the witnesses of the masters. Writing down the sentiments of each competition. Chu Yang slowly said. So you came today but you did not bring us to play. Gu Duxing smiled. He had guessed Chu Yang's intention in the first moment. The gathering of the 3 masters was a grand event in the world. If used well it could give Diwu Qingro a splitting headache. How could Chu Yang miss such a great opportunity to cause trouble for Diwu Qingro? Chu Yang's arrival this time should be an extremely important hidden chess piece. Chu Yang smiled faintly and said, "This zither master is Miss Xiaolu?" "Ah." He smiled and did not continue. Such a grand event, how could Chu Yang not have heard of it in his previous life? He clearly remembered that in his previous life, the flute master was second, and the zither master was third. In other words, this Miss Xiaolu was defeated. However, her defeat was not because her skills were not good enough. Instead, it was because her zither was suddenly stolen before the battle of the 3 absolute heavenly imperial court. The zither of the zither master could be said to be a priceless treasure. It was also the most valuable zither under the heavens. After losing her zither, how could she be in a good mood? And in such a short period of time, where could she find a suitable zither? Between two zither, how could they be the same? Thus, the zither master's defeat was logical. But after the zither was unwillingly defeated, the other two masters were killed at almost the same time. The two great clans also collapsed like ice. This case caused a huge uproar in the world, but in the end, it was left unsettled. That was because no one knew who had done it. Only a few years later did Chuyang realize that it must have been done by the power behind the zither master. This move was extremely ruthless because they didn't know who instigated the theft of the zither, but it had to be one of the two families. There was definitely one innocent and the other deserved it. Without any evidence, they simply killed off the two clans. Clean and simple. This kind of method was extremely unreasonable, but it was also the most ruthless and effective method when there was no other way. But even after killing people, the zither was still not recovered. Thus, the masters of that year disappeared with the passing of time. Chapter 208. But to invite her out, what do we use? GMO scratched his head and said, silver? You are absolutely right. We use silver. Chuyang nodded. GMO was dumbfounded. He thought it would be some beautiful woman coming to write poems or something like that. Using silver was something he thought was impossible. Who would have thought that it was actually the case? This is a place where the zither master cultivates her zither, but it is also a place where she accumulates wealth. Chuyang said in a low voice, legend has it that when the zither master first appeared here, the fee for one song was 10,000 taels of silver. 10,000 taels? Luo Kudi's eyes widened. Damn. After listening to her zither music, one could directly become a martial king? 10,000 taels is expensive? Chuyang looked at him. From then on, the zither master would not bid for anything less than 10,000 taels. But the nobles of Ironcloud Citadel never got tired of this and even competed with each other. The zither master's income became higher and higher. Plus, this house of exceptional beauties has more than one zither master. After the zither master finishes playing, the highest bidder can listen to her song alone. This song is called Lone Wolf. It is a symbol of status. As for the rest, there are too many girls to choose from. Even though they only sell their skills and not their bodies, if they like you, then this can be discussed. Chuyang laughed. Luo Kudi's eyes widened. If they like you, you also need silver, right? Nonsense. Chuyang glared at him with annoyance. Truly brilliant. The four of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Yes, they only sell their skills and not their bodies. However, if you are sincere enough, then the beauty will fall in love with you and you can give her away. However, how much silver would you need to spend to make up for this? This was really hard to say. This zither can also be given away? GMO asked. This is not possible. Chuyang shook his head. This is absolutely impossible. Don't even think about it. Boss, it seems like you are the true master of Moon Breeze. Rui Butong said with admiration. Chuyang smiled bitterly. He did not expect himself to be a master of Moon Breeze. If he wanted to take over this house of exceptional beauties, how could he not know all the rules? Just as the five of them were whispering to each other, someone had already raised a card. 10,000 taels. Yes, Boss Chen offers 10,000 taels. 15,000 taels. Official Wang has already bid 15,000 taels. So rich. GMO stuck out his tongue. He was a descendant of a super aristocratic family, and his background was more profound than these people's. But if he were to take out 10,000 taels of silver just to listen to a song, he reckoned that he would be skinned alive when he returned home. Duke Lien has already bid 30,000 taels. Are there any higher bids? Someone shouted from the stage. Chuyang blinked his eyes and said, look at brother's generosity. Suddenly he raised his card and shouted, 100,000 taels. Sitting in front of the stage, a young lady was shaking her head and chuckling softly. She was saying something to the person beside her. He was the one who offered the 30,000 taels of silver. 30,000 taels of silver was already considered very high, and he was already very confident. Who would have thought that 100,000 taels would suddenly pop out of nowhere? He couldn't help but frown. He then turned around to look at Chuyang. This gentleman offers 100,000 taels. 100,000 taels. Is there a higher one? The graceful woman on the stage was also shocked, but she still managed to react immediately. Jumping from 30,000 to 100,000 taels of silver, this was really the first time. 150,000 taels of silver. Duke Lien stared at Chuyang with burning anger. 300,000 taels of silver. Chuyang sneered. The entire hall was silent. 300,000 taels of silver just to listen to a song? This kind of behavior could no longer be described as prodigal. Duke Lian's face darkened. He fiercely glared at Chu Yang. His expression was cold. He turned his head and sat down. He whispered to himself, "Where did this little guy come from? Who knows this little guy?" Several young men next to him shook their heads. One of them said, "He looks like a nouveau riche with a few taels of silver. Young Master Lien, you will be able to crush him." Duke Lien sneered and said, "No one knows him?" They all shook their heads. Duke Lien smiled coldly. He had been chasing after this zither master for half a year. In this half year he had thrown in countless taels of silver. This year the snow had sealed Iron Citadel. He knew that the zither master loved snow and was in a good mood. He wanted to come a few days ago, but the emperor had passed away and a new emperor had ascended the throne. This was a tense time. How could he dare to show off at this time? Therefore, as soon as the situation relaxed a little, he immediately rushed over excitedly and impatiently. He did not expect that when he came here, an unknown country bumpkin would suddenly appear and steal his thunder. In this ironclad citadel, there is someone who dares to compete with me. Aha, I want to see who this person is. Duke Lien sneered. He turned his head and said, "Keep an eye on this little guy. After you are done, break his legs and bring him to my place." A man in black behind him looked coldly at Chu Yang. The corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. He whispered, "Rest assured, Duke Lien." How could Chu Yang not know that this zither master was the real boss of this house of exceptional beauties? This meeting was related to Chu Yang's future plans. Chu Yang was determined to win this meeting. He did not care how much money he had to pay. After all, it was not his own money, he was only paying for it first. This Duke Lian's family was so rich that Chu Yang did not mind going to his house at night. Naturally, he did not care who he offended because of this. There was only one wealthy family in Ironcloud Citadel with the surname Lien, Minister of Revenue Lien Qinggui's family. This young man must be Lien Qinggui's son. A Minister of Revenue? His son was able to spend 150,000 taels of silver just to listen to a song. His family's wealth could be imagined. But where did this money come from? The salary of a Minister of Revenue was only a few hundred taels of silver per year. Minister Chu had not taken action for a long time. In this snowy weather, he wanted to find some entertainment for the officials and citizens of Ironcloud Citadel. He also wanted to remind them, even if there is a change of dynasty, Butian Pavilion is still Butian Pavilion. King of Hell Chu is still King of Hell Chu. Plus, Chu Yang needed to use this big action to tell Di Wu Qingro that King of Hell Chu was still in Iron Cloud. This Duke Lien was using this as a stepping stone. Chu Yang was very happy. This Duke bid 300,000 taels. Is there anyone else? The middle-aged woman on the stage stopped halfway through her sentence. 300,000 taels to buy a song. Other than this second uncle, there was probably no one else who was this stupid. He smiled and asked, "What is your surname?" Chu Yang smiled, "My surname is Chu." As he said this, he took out a thick stack of banknotes and patted them in his hand. On the top of the stack there were 3 words, 10,000 taels. This young master came here to show his sincerity to House of Exceptional Beauties. Even if Miss Xiao Lu did not play the zither, this money would still belong to House of Exceptional Beauties. Chu Yang smiled faintly. He casually handed the thick stack of banknotes to the young woman in white next to him and said, "No need to count, this is 300,000 taels. Miss Xiao Lu, please come out." The young woman in white's hand trembled as she took the banknotes. This was the first time in her life that she had received such a large amount of banknotes. She could not help but be excited. She took it and brought it inside. That Duke Lien looked on coldly. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile as he muttered, "What a rich person. What I like the most are rich people." The young men beside him all felt that it was a pity. Such a good fat sheep, how could he provoke Lien Fanlei? Why couldn't he provoke him? If that was the case, wouldn't that silver be gold for him? To be able to casually take out a few 100,000 taels of banknotes, this fat sheep must be very fat. What a pity. After a while, a puff sound suddenly came from the side of the stage in the hall. White smoke rose from the corners and immediately covered the stage. Then, a thin layer of gauze slowly descended from above and gently covered the stage. With a tinkling sound, a tall and graceful figure appeared in the middle of the stage and sat down leisurely. In the haze, it seemed that the zither master raised her eyes and looked at Chu Yang. The gauze was gently closed and under the lingering smoke, it was impossible to see her face clearly. Only a pair of cold and clear eyes could be seen, like a cold pond in autumn, bottomless. Then a faint smell of sandalwood slowly spread out. The hall was silent. Everyone's eyes were quietly looking at the seemingly illusory figure. In front of the zither, an infinitely beautiful figure sat upright. Then a ding sound was heard. The zither strings were slowly plucked and a zither sound came from afar. This zither sound seemed to come from the heavens. It was subtle but holy and noble. It was as if with just a gentle pluck of the zither, all the troubles of the world, all the vicissitudes of the world, all the matters of the world, all became fleeting clouds and smoke. Everything became ethereal. The zither sound was faint and slowly spread out like smoke. It slowly floated out and gradually filled the entire hall. Chuyang slightly closed his eyes. His mind was involuntarily immersed in this beautiful zither sound. Before coming here, Chuyang had never thought that a piece of music could have such great magical power. But now he believed it. It was just a prelude, but it was as if it had endless magical power, causing his heart to flutter along with it. Softly a voice came from the stage. It was faintly discernible and said indifferently, "This song is called Reincarnation." The faint zither sound suddenly disappeared, but it seemed to still be reverberating. In an instant, the zither sound was even more subtle and slowly spread out again. This time it was a completely different feeling from before. Chuyang seemed to see himself appearing in this world from nothing. A gentle hand hugged him. Then, in the next moment he found himself in a world of ice and snow. The scenes of his previous life flashed through his mind like this, and no matter how big or small they were, endless thoughts came and swept through Chuyang's body and mind in an instant. Chapter 209. The sound of the zither was faint. It was obviously a soft sound, but in everyone's heart, it stirred up a monstrous thunder. Everyone followed the sound of the zither and fell into a wonderful state. Chuyang's heart was as calm as water, but it was as if he was standing at the side of a bystander, quietly watching his own life. His heart and soul were broken, his liver and guts were cut to pieces. When he was young, beyond the heavens sect burned fiercely. Meng Chao ran, dressed in white and wielding a sword, came and went amidst the raging fire. His face was calm in despair, but he pressed himself down and buried himself under the corpses, preserving a bit of life for himself. Walking out of beyond the heavens sect, he had no one to rely on. First, he had no experience, so he easily trusted others and almost lost his life. Fleeing in a sorry state, the journey was filled with dust. Time after time he was schemed against by others, time after time he was chased by others, time after time he escaped from death. This caused his heart to gradually become cold, hard, and emotionless. Cultivating in seclusion in the mountains, coming to Iron Cloud, the flames of war filled the sky, moving unhindered in Jianghu, killing people for their goods, starting the road of the poisonous sword revered martial artist. That road was filled with a reign of terror. Leaving behind a trail of corpses and the bleakness of his apathetic departure. He was not heartless. When he killed the first person, he vomited for 3 days. But if I don't kill people, they will kill me. In the vast world he had no relatives. Only he could carve out this road of blood, a road of life. Until that day he found a purple bamboo forest, evoking memories of his childhood. He lingered there, forgetting to go home, but then he met a woman in red. What kind of woman was she? Graceful, a heavenly fragrance, weak and delicate, but strong and proud, with a light sadness covering her body, yet elegant and noble. Every movement of her hand, they were all top-notch. She was like a fairy quietly standing in front of him. He still remembered that conversation. May I ask your name? My surname is Mo Ching Wu. Good name. Is it? Mo Ching Wu's beautiful eyes were bleak, muttering, "My mother once said, what? A daughter's heart. Mo Ching Wu, a daughter's heart." Mo Ching Wu. At that time, Chuyang thoughtfully said, "Your mother is really a person." Ching Wu with the surname Mo in front, the meaning was completely different. A girl's heart should not dance so easily. If you dance lightly, you will surely be despised by others. This was a name, and also a warning from Mo Ching Wu's mother to her daughter. It also contained a mother's vision for her daughter's beautiful future. What a coincidence you came to the purple bamboo forest again. I like purple bamboo. Mo Ching Wu smiled gently, concealing the naivety in her eyes. Purple bamboo, my favorite and warmest color when I was young was purple. It's really unforgettable. Really? Ah, me too. I still remember when I was young, I grew up in a purple bamboo forest. Later on, the people were gone and the purple bamboo was gone too. Their voices were faint, but both of them could hear the nostalgia and melancholy in each other's voices. Both of them were able to sense the intense unwillingness and hatred in each other's hearts. Both of them knew that each other was filled with worries. But at that time Chuyang didn't know. Now he knew. Mo Qingwu liked the purple bamboo because of her second brother's purple jade flute when she was young. Brother Chu, you're here again? Back then it was like a dream. The purple bamboo is where my heart is. If I don't come to see it, I will always feel that my heart is missing something. Yes, me too. Brother Chu, if you come again next time, can you still meet me so coincidentally? Why? Nothing. Mo Qingwu smiled. Chuyang closed his eyes. Separated by two reincarnations, he seemed to have seen Mo Qingwu's smile back then. The purple bamboo swayed like the waves of the sea. Mo Qingwu's red dress fluttered in the wind. In the purple bamboo forest, her beauty was unparalleled. That smile, there was no sorrow, but there was shyness and sweetness. Qingwu, you should know that my heart has fallen for that smile of yours, right? Unfortunately, I didn't know. Qingwu, you're here? What a coincidence. Yes, today is Chongyang. Qingwu, would you like to have a drink with me? Yes, sure. Brother Chu. Chuyang? Yes. Brother Chu, do you think my dance is good? I haven't seen it yet. Haha, after today's drink, the purple bamboo will bear witness. Little sister will dance for you. At that time, Mo Qingwu's eyes were filled with sweetness, joy, and sorrow. The way she looked at him was filled with tenderness. Her red sleeves fluttered gently. Chuyang only felt that at that moment, the heaven and earth warehouse was filled with a beautiful red color. And a graceful figure, like an immortal, stepped on the moon. Blue smoke gently dances in the desert, purple bamboo in the vast sea and horizon. A lifetime of one dance, one person to appreciate, a lifetime of one dance, a lifetime of one dance. Mo Qingwu's beautiful voice seemed to be playing again. The sound of the zither in the hall slowly rose as if it was twisting and turning, suddenly rising up, following which, a resounding sound of a zither suddenly rang out. Everyone's hearts thumped heavily. And Chuyang's heart also suddenly shook at this moment. It seemed that fate had reversed at this moment. Chuyang? Don't go. I want to avenge my master, avenge my brothers. I have to go. Chuyang? Chuyang? You're so cruel. Chuyang? Will you come back? I don't know either. Chuyang, I finally found you. Are you still the same? Come back with me? Come back with me, okay? Chuyang? I'm afraid. I've been feeling very uneasy these days. Chuyang? Your heart, is it really as hard as stone? I've long lost my heart. At that time, Chuyang thought of the ruins of Beyond the Heavens sect, the ground full of corpses, the thick hatred, cutting off emotions, destroying emotions, cultivating the way of the sword, and taking revenge. But he didn't notice, or rather, he didn't dare to look at Mo Qingwu's heartbroken eyes. Mo Qingwu left heartbroken. After a long while, Chuyang suddenly became irritated as if something bad was happening. Thinking of Mo Qingwu who had just left, Chuyang became even more restless. Somehow, Mo Qingwu seemed to be calling out to him softly, Chuyang? Save me, Chuyang? You're so cruel, Chuyang? I want to see you again. Chuyang, I miss you. Chuyang's figure shot out like lightning and his black figure quickly chased after her. At that time he didn't know why he was chasing and he didn't know what he was chasing. But after chasing for dozens of miles he found Mo Qingwu besieged by people, and she was seriously injured and dying. At that time, Chuyang only felt that his heart was about to explode. He screamed and rushed forward, almost losing his mind as he chopped those people into pieces. Mo Qingwu's last moment in his arms, but her face was full of despair and happiness. Chuyang, you haven't hugged me like this for a long time. I'm so happy. Don't move. Let me see you, look at you. I'm not in pain, really not in pain. Chuyang, if there's a next life, if I can meet you again, I hope you can take a good look at me. I'm prettier than a sword. Chuyang, hold me tight. Hold me tight, I want to be held by you forever. Chuyang, to be able to die in your arms, I'm very satisfied. I have no regrets at the last moment. After all, I saw you. If there's a next life. Her eyes were full of longing, but they froze at that moment. Her eyes were still full of love as she looked at Chuyang's face, but they had already lost their liveliness. But that deep love in her eyes had become eternal. Chuyang let out a heavy breath, as if he had also spat out his own heart, but he realized that the zither music had already ended. At this moment in the hall, no matter who it was, they were all either deep in thought, sighing, or looking lost. Not a single sound was heard. Gu Duxing sat beside Chu Yang, his eyes moist. He also thought of that person who had sacrificed so much for him. Gu Miaoling. Everyone had their own encounters. This song made Chu Yang experience the sadness of his previous life again, but what others experienced was also the grievance, anger, sorrow, and infatuation of their own lives. This reincarnation song was like a baptism and purification of life. What a beautiful song. Chu Yang sighed softly in his heart. The Zither Master's reputation is well deserved. However, this reincarnation song was still broken. It was broken. Chu Yang's evaluation. Chu Yang did not know much about music. In his previous life, Mo Qingwu liked to dance. Since ancient times, there was no distinction between dance and music. Chu Yang naturally came into contact with some music knowledge. This reincarnation song, although Chu Yang was not a music master, but he was the only one who understood this song. Because only he had truly tasted the taste of reincarnation. The so-called reincarnation was at least 2 lives. Only then could it barely be called reincarnation. But this song, Chu Yang only recalled his previous life. He did not recall this period of time in this life. But according to his state of mind at that time, it was clearly possible. But the zither music was broken here. So Chu Yang said that it was broken. The hall was completely silent. Only the gigantic furnace in the middle of the hall was flickering, emitting an endless amount of heat. After a long time, there was a burst of thunderous applause. The zither music sounded twice as if it was thanking him. Mr. Chu, you can ask me 3 questions about music. If I can't answer them, I'll have a long talk with Mr. Chu and we'll have dinner together. The indifferent voice came from the zither master. Chu Yang chuckled and calmed his heart. He said, before the zither master who dares to talk about music. However, regarding this song, I do have a few questions to ask Miss Xiao Lu. Miss Xiao Lu's voice clearly showed a bit of interest. This reincarnation song directly entered everyone's heart, regardless of wealth or poverty, good or bad. It can be seen that Miss Xiao Lu's experience in the world of mortals is very successful, but what? Miss Xiao Lu asked. But this song seems to be only half a song. Miss Xiao Lu, why is that? Chu Yang asked indifferently. Chapter 210. When Chu Yang said this, Miss Xiao Lu seemed to be shocked. She did not say anything for a long time. The people below immediately burst into an uproar. Where did this bumpkin come from? He dares to say that such a beautiful zither sound is broken? Incomplete? A young man in white sneered, do you understand? That's right. No matter if it's in terms of artistic conception or the length of the song, this is a complete song. Lian Fanlei's lips curled up as he looked at this bumpkin who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He said meaningfully, this brother Chu, I'm afraid you have never heard such a beautiful song before? Do you really think that the music of the shepherd boy in the mountains and the funeral in the countryside is the best song of all time? Ha ha ha. The group of people suddenly burst into laughter. This guy is just a frog at the bottom of a well. He has only seen the sky. The group of playboys laughed without restraint. Zheng. The sound of the zither suddenly rang out, and the noise in the hall suddenly stopped. The sound of the zither was intense and decisive. Even those who did not understand music could tell that Miss Xiao Lu was angry. This bumpkin had spoken rudely and had indeed angered the beauty. Everyone began to take pleasure in his misfortune. This song, under everyone's anticipation, Miss Xiao Lu slowly opened her mouth, is indeed incomplete. This is because when I was composing this song, I had a dream. It was ethereal and illusory, as if someone had told me that this was my heart. After I woke up, I immediately put on my clothes and composed this song. However, the dream was a sudden awakening. When I was about to write the last part of the song, I suddenly felt that I could not continue. Therefore this song is only half a song. For a long time I have been brooding over this, but I wonder how Duke Chu was able to tell? This song is indeed incomplete. It is only half a song. These few words caused the group of playboys to feel as if they had been struck by lightning. They felt dizzy and were tongue-tied. They did not expect that Miss Xiao Lu would actually admit to this bumpkin's words. They had just been mocking him, but Miss Xiao Lu's words were like a slap to their faces. The slaps were very loud and clear. This was especially true for Lian Fanlei. This guy could be considered a knowledgeable person and was somewhat proficient in music. At this moment he felt a burning sensation on his face. He felt so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. How did you figure it out? I just figured it out. Chu Yang smiled faintly. Miss Xiao Lu pondered for a moment before saying, if that's the case, the first question is passed. Brother, please ask the second question. The second problem is still the inadequacy of this song. Chu Yang said in a clear voice. This question caused another round of commotion. Everyone listened to this song. It was perfect. This fellow actually pointed out the problems one after another. This fellow is simply crazy. However, after the previous face slapping, everyone was very tactful and did not raise any questions at this time. They just waited for him to continue. Oh, please enlighten us. Miss Xiaolu's voice was very modest, but this was not an act. She was sincerely asking for advice and everyone could hear this. Yes, music has always been about being joyful without being obscene, mournful without being hurt. That's the best. In a person's life, no matter how difficult it is, there will always be joys and sorrows, sweet and bitter. Chu Yang said faintly, even the most despicable person, even if he can't live anymore, he will still experience joy and happiness in his life, even if it is only for a moment. Even the most noble person, even the most powerful person, he will still experience hardship in his life. No one can be an exception to this. Behind the curtain, Miss Xiaolu nodded slightly and pondered. Mrs. Song is very moving and captivating. However, it is filled with sorrow. Mournful without being hurt, this point is achieved. However, since it is reincarnation, there will always be joy and sorrow. However, this was the only thing that was lacking in Mrs. Music. However, without this point, there is no meaning in reincarnation. Chu Yang said softly, therefore, I think that this song should be changed. What does Miss Xiaolu think? Yes. This time Miss Xiaolu did not wait. Instead, she directly spoke and praised. Duke Chu's understanding of music really makes Xiaolu gasp in amazement. I hope that Duke Chu can leave behind some valuable suggestions and discuss with Xiaolu how to improve it. What do you think? When these words were said, Lian Fanlei's eyes immediately shot out a jealous light. Leave behind some suggestions, discuss methods. How can such a method be discussed in a day or two? If the discussion continues, these two people discuss in bed, then wouldn't I be wearing a green hat? Yes, this guy hasn't even chased her yet and he is already thinking about the green hat. Yes, this discussion can be discussed later. Right now I will raise a third question. Chu Yang said faintly. Please speak, Duke Chu. Miss Xiaolu's voice had already become respectful. This young duke had raised two questions that were already worthy of her attention. It was definitely not simple. As the saying goes, the zither music comes from the hands, and the hands come from the heart, and the heart comes from the soul. Miss Xiaolu's zither music is wholeheartedly devoted to it. Her skills are even more outstanding, and the zither on the table is the best zither in history. This combination is already at the peak of perfection. There is no more perfect combination in the world. The only thing missing is the sound of the soul. Miss Xiaolu sighed faintly. Yes, Chu Yang said. After a long silence, a voice came from behind the curtain. It seemed that Miss Xiaolu's mind was wandering, and her fingers were unconsciously plucking the zither strings. Serve tea in the palace. Xiaolu wants to ask Duke Chu for advice alone. Miss Xiaolu thought for a long time before softly instructing. Yes. A pretty maidservant beside her replied. Chu Yang stood up and said faintly, you guys wait for me here. However, I don't think you will be lonely. As he spoke, his eyes looked meaningfully at the group of men who were filled with righteous indignation, and he chuckled softly. This was a disdainful smile. In Iron Cloud Citadel, even Tai Bu Tian could only sulk in front of this king of Hell Chu, let alone these small fries. Chu Yang did not care at all. If they did not have some value, Chu Yang would not even look at them. As for Lian Fanlei was just a fart. No, in Chu Yang's eyes he was not even a fart. A fart could still stink for a while, but he was just a dead body that could stink for a while. Don't worry, I will control myself. Gu Duxing smiled coldly and said, I will not delay your plan. He knew that if Chu Yang gave him such a special order, there must be a reason. He also realized that no matter what Chu Yang did, it was always a chain of events, one linked to another, and it would continue to extend. Ever since he met Chu Yang did not do anything casually. Everything had a deep meaning behind it. Gu Duxing naturally would not recklessly ruin Chu Yang's plans. Therefore, even with Luo Kudi and GMO, these two hotheads, here Chu Yang was not worried about leaving Gu Duxing behind. That's good. Chu Yang took a step forward and followed behind the white-clothed maid, walking in neither fast nor slow. Behind them, Luo Kudi was so excited that he almost screamed, Ayaya, I finally finished playing the piano. There are so many beauties here. Let's all do a striptease and sing 18 touches. Chu Yang staggered and almost fell down head first. Immediately after, he heard 3 curses. Pig! You pig! You stupid pig! They came from Gu Du Xing GMO and Ji Butong's mouths. Immediately after, there was a series of bangs and Luo Kudi's screams. Ji Mo's voice was very flattering. Okay, beautiful sisters, don't be angry. I have already helped you teach him a lesson. Haha, this pervert is simply unbearable. Don't worry, if he makes another sound, I'll hit him. Pretty girl, no matter what, I'm still your flower protector. How about it, everyone give me a kiss? Imagining Ji Mo's pouting face, Chuyang quickened his steps and turned a corner. Only when he could no longer hear them did he wipe his sweat. Boss Chu regretted bringing these 2 guys out. Of course, he did not have to worry about their safety, but it was really embarrassing. Grand Duke Chu, please. Arriving in front of an elegant room, the maid bowed. Miss Xiao Lu is waiting inside. Chuyang nodded and quietly looked around. He saw that this abode was located on the top floor of the 3rd floor. There were a few embroidered buildings on all 4 sides. They were like stars surrounding the moon, perfectly protecting every corner of this abode. This was the most brilliant defensive formation. It is indeed extraordinary. Chuyang gently knocked on the door. Grand Duke Chu, please come in. A calm voice came from inside. Thank you. Chuyang pushed the door open and stepped in with 1 foot. He paused and stepped in with the other foot. His whole person appeared in the room and stopped in front of the door, quietly standing there for a moment. As he stepped in, Chuyang clearly felt a fierce and unbridled aura locking onto him. This aura was unscrupulous and lawless. It was as if as long as someone offended him, even if it was an emperor with millions of soldiers protecting him, he would still kill him in 1 strike. And he would not care about any consequences. This kind of aura reminded Chuyang of Gu Du Xing in his previous life. The only time he saw Gu Du Xing in his previous life, this lonely guest had such a fierce and unbridled murderous aura. At that time, Gu Du Xing was a king-level master. Peak level. King's sword, solitary traveler in the secular world. Not long after that meeting, the news of Gu Du Xing successfully breaking through to emperor level spread. Who is this person? How can he have such a strong aura? Chapter 211. After a while, that aura finally dissipated. Chu Yang's expression did not change. He smiled at Miss Xiao Lu, who was sitting behind the zither table, and said, Can I come in? I'm sorry. Grand Duke Chu, this is my guard. He is a bit sensitive. Please come in and sit. Miss Xiao Lu stood up with an apologetic face. Miss Xiao Lu's figure was beautiful, but her face was only of the highest quality. She was definitely not a peerless beauty, but there was a strange aura of comfort around her that made people's hearts calm down upon seeing her. Her every move, even her words or the slight movement of her eyebrows, was filled with gentleness and gentleness. Everyone, as long as they saw her, would definitely have the same first impression. Gentleness. It was gentleness. Miss Xiao Lu is truly an extraordinary woman. You are worthy of being called the Zither Master. Chu Yang's gaze was calm and full of admiration. However, his expression was serious without any frivolity. There was only praise from the bottom of his heart, but it did not give people the feeling of flattery. This trip was to negotiate. If one was too arrogant, it would not work. If one tried to flatter, it would be even worse. Neither servile nor overbearing, it was just right. This was the way of a king. Minister Chu is indeed Minister Chu. Miss Xiao Lu chuckled meaningfully. Miss is truly an expert. Chu Yang was not surprised. With the strength of the House of Exceptional Beauties, it would be strange if they did not know his true identity. Just like when he faced Diwu Qingro, Chu Yang could only confuse ordinary people, but he knew in his heart that he could not confuse Diwu Qingro. His advantage was distance. The distance was too far. Diwu Qingro would not personally come to deal with him. If Diwu Qingro's position was like that of the House of Exceptional Beauties, Chu Yang believed that even if he was reborn 10,000 times, he would still end up as a corpse. There must be something important for Minister Chu to come here. Miss Xiao Lu quietly poured tea and said softly, However, no matter what it is, let's talk about music first. She smiled sweetly and said, The 3 questions raised by the minister have raised my daughter's heart. If the minister can't appease her, I'm afraid that no matter what we discuss, we won't be able to reach a conclusion. Chu Yang laughed out loud and said, I already knew this. But I really didn't expect such a gentle girl to be so strong. Miss Xiao Lu pursed her lips and smiled, No matter how strong he is, he can't compare to King of Hell Chu's fierce reputation. Haha. Chu Yang laughed. May I ask the minister how to solve the first problem? Miss Xiaolu was somewhat impatient with this problem. It is the problem of the first half of the song. How can the second half be composed? This question was easy to answer, but also difficult to answer. Personally, I would rather Miss Xiaolu never composed the second half of the song. That would be a good thing. Chu Yang frowned and cautiously said. Why is that? Miss Xiaolu frowned and asked in confusion. What is reincarnation? From life to death and then from death to life, that's a reincarnation. Chu Yang said cautiously, reincarnation is life and death. Monsieur, I haven't died once. Miss Xiaolu pondered, since I haven't died, I can't compose a complete reincarnation. Because I don't know what it feels like. Therefore I can't compose it. But, if I die once, how can I compose it when I'm dead? So, the song of reincarnation will never appear? Miss Xiaolu's eyes were filled with deep unwillingness. Life and death are not things that only death can understand. Chu Yang said quietly. Just as he finished speaking, that sharp aura suddenly appeared again. In an instant, Chu Yang felt his mouth and nose freeze. He couldn't speak and he couldn't breathe. The person in the dark clearly didn't want him to speak. Miss Xiaolu's eyes flashed as if she understood something. If that's the case, then reincarnation. It's fine if it doesn't exist. Minister Chu, let's continue with the next problem. That aura suddenly disappeared. Chu Yang smiled bitterly in his heart. This Miss Xiaolu was an extremely intelligent person. Even though he didn't finish speaking, she already knew what he meant. Even though that person tried to stop him, he was still one step too late. Miss Xiaolu said that she gave up, but her eyes told Chu Yang that she would never give up. That was a kind of extreme passion for music. The second problem is about the joy, anger, sorrow, and joy of the song. Miss Xiaolu frowned and said, I've thought about it, and I feel that Minister Chu's words are somewhat unreasonable. Oh. Music is a simple expression of emotion. Since it's a sad song, mixing in joy and sorrow is like mixing a spoonful of vinegar into a jar of good wine. It loses the integrity of the music. Similarly, a joyful song is the same. Miss Xiaolu frowned. Wrong. Miss Xiaolu's words are very wrong. Chu Yang said seriously. How is it very wrong? Miss Xiaolu frowned. Music is a simple expression of emotion, so it's inferior. Chu Yang smiled and brought out Mo Qingwu's theory from his previous life. Mo Qingwu had never danced or sung lightly. However, her music was not inferior to anyone in this world. On the contrary, because Mo Qingwu's life was full of twists and turns and was too sad, Mo Qingwu's understanding of life was particularly deep. Therefore, her understanding of music was also very human-like. And this theory was something that Mo Qingwu had pondered for a long time in his previous life before suddenly coming to a realization. Even though Miss Xiaolu was a zither master, she was still young. How could she have experienced Mo Qingwu's hardships? A piece of music should not be used to express emotions, but to use a different method to tell a story. As you play, let the audience feel the joy, anger, sorrow, and joy of the story. Chu Yang said quietly, you don't have to open your mouth to say anything, nor do you have to make any introduction to this story. But you can let anyone who hears this song understand in which part of the song, the meeting, the parting, the sadness, the anger, and the death. And let the people who hear it be able to tell the entire story based on their own understanding. Miss Xiaolu sat upright and still. Her expression was serious as she silently pondered over Chu Yang's words and every word. This kind of attitude, this kind of respect, only appeared in front of her teacher, the real zither master. But at this moment, Miss Xiaolu felt that the person in front of her was Minister Chu, who was younger than her. He was worthy of such treatment. What he said seemed inconceivable at first, but after thinking about it carefully, she felt that it was infinitely profound. But if she wanted to reach the level he talked about, how much effort would she have to put in? But everyone has their own heart and people's hearts are different. How can I make them say the story that I want to express? Of course it's different. Different people have different experiences and different states of mind. If a story is written by one person, it may be inspirational. But if another person writes it, it may be about growth. If another person writes it, it may be about relaxation and humor. Then if another person writes it, it may be about the rise and fall of a dynasty. Chu Yang said softly, or if someone writes it, it may be tasteless. Or if someone writes it, it may make people think about it. Or if someone writes it, it may be magnificent. Or if someone writes it, it may be sentimental. But you have to remember that the world's matters are always the same. Chu Yang said casually, if a story is written by 10,000 people, it will still be the same story. and there will not be any changes. I think I understand a little. Miss Xiaolu pondered and nodded slightly. When music reaches the peak, it can control a person's happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. When you want someone to cry, they will cry. When you want someone to smile, they will involuntarily reveal a knowing smile. All changes are in your heart. And you, although you are called the Zither Master, you should be. Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, there is still an unreachable distance. Yes. Miss Xiaolu respectfully poured tea for Chu Yang. I understand. Big brother, please enlighten me. Yes, from Minister Chu to Big Brother Chu, this was a huge change. It was also a fundamental change in attitude. This meant that this Zither Master was already somewhat convinced. You are welcome. I also hope that I can leave my mark on the path of a talented Zither player to the peak. Chu Yang said calmly, you must know that this is also my supreme glory. Miss Xiaolu pursed her lips and smiled. Big Brother Chu really knows how to talk. You obviously know that you are flattering me, but you still make me feel proud. Chu Yang laughed and said thoughtfully, don't tell me, you still need to be flattered? Everyone looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Big Brother Chu Fu, which aspect of music are you good at? Miss Xiaolu smiled and said, do I have the good fortune to listen to Big Brother Chu play a song? Chu Yang suddenly became embarrassed. He rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. Lu, you are poking at my sore spot. You are making your big brother ashamed. I am just an armchair strategist. I can move my mouth, but if you let me play, cough cough, you will feel sorry for your zither. Haha. Miss Xiaolu smiled sweetly. Moreover, he had used a helpless tone to say, Lu. This was a nickname that only people who were very close to each other could use. So, he had unknowingly closed the distance between the two of them. Moreover, he had said, Lu, in a helpless tone. Moreover, it did not make Miss Xiaolu feel disgusted. On the contrary, she felt that his helpless and awkward expression was cute and intimate. If that is the case, then I will not make things difficult for Big Brother Chu Yang. Miss Xiaolu playfully rolled her eyes and smiled. Chapter 212. At this moment, Miss Xiaolu suddenly felt a sense of familiarity from the bottom of her heart. It was as if the man in front of her was really her own brother. No matter what she did, he would only spoil her and spoil her. This feeling had nothing to do with the feelings between men and women, but it was more of a blood connection than the feelings between men and women. For a moment, her eyes couldn't help but become much warmer. Brother Chu Yang, then what about the third question? When Miss Xiaolu said this, even she didn't realize that there was a hint of coquettishness in her voice. The third question requires good tea, good wine, and he. Chu Yang leaned back and crossed his legs. He shook his legs and said, this question is very difficult to solve. He actually acted as if he was in his own home and spoke in a bureaucratic tone. If Minister Chu was like this from the beginning, Miss Xiaolu would have definitely driven him out. But now that he was joking, Miss Xiaolu bit her lips and glared at him. Then she couldn't help but laugh and said angrily, stupid. I've heard that this place has good wine, good dishes, and good tea, and, wah? Chu Yang snorted. He cast a sidelong glance at her and said in a strange tone, I say, little girl, you want to rely on your glib tongue to take out all the cards of this elder brother's hand? Isn't this too much? Okay. Miss Xiaolu used a helpless tone and said with a smile, Uncle Chu, then I will properly serve you. Don't. Please don't. Chu Yang waved his hand in horror. I still haven't found a wife. Stupid. You wish. Miss Xiaolu angrily stomped her feet. She turned her head and walked away angrily. After taking 2 steps, she turned back and said, wait here, I will brew some tea for you. While I am at it, I will also prepare some food and wine for this young master, okay? That's more like it. Chu Yang said arrogantly with his nose pointed to the sky. The two of them laughed at the same time, and the atmosphere instantly became harmonious. Miss Xiaolu laughed until her waist bent. She felt that she had not been this happy in a long time. She pouted her lips and pretended to be angry as she muttered, you are younger than me, yet you have the cheek to call yourself older brother? You are truly shameless. He walked out. Soon, fragrant tea, wine, and dishes were served one after another. There were 8 exquisite small plates and a small pot of exquisite wine. Chu Yang's appetite was whetted. Without any hesitation he ate and drank like a whirlwind. Before Miss Xiaolu could even move her chopsticks, the table was already a mess. In the end, Minister Chu held the chopsticks in one hand and the wine jug in the other. He simply threw the chopsticks to the side and directly poured the wine into his mouth. With a whoosh sound, the wine in the jug was completely gone. He then lifted the teapot and began to drink wildly. Putting it down, he wiped his mouth and sighed in satisfaction. So satisfying. I didn't even eat breakfast just to wait for this meal. Miss Xiaolu looked at the 8 empty plates in front of her. They were even cleaner than if they had been carefully washed. She was stupefied and flabbergasted. At this time, the chopsticks in her hand had not moved at all. In other words, she did not eat a single mouthful. There was no wine, no dishes, and no tea. This speed, I say. Minister Chu, could it be that His Majesty does not allow you to eat? Miss Xiaolu was flabbergasted as she shouted. Hey, how can this official's food be better than my little sister's? Chu Yang sighed and said, It seems that I will have to come more often in the future. In any case, I am now a distinguished guest. Don't, please don't. If you come more often, our house of exceptional beauties will be closed because of you. Miss Xiaolu raised her hand and made a gesture of surrender. The two laughed at the same time. They both felt as if they had known each other for decades. The mouth of those who eat others is soft, and the hand of those who receive others is short. Hey, since I have already eaten and drunk, it would be unreasonable to just leave like that. Chu Yang pretended to sigh and said, The third question, ha. As for the third question, Alu, why don't you play the song, Happy Reunion for me now? Chu Yang grinned. Why can't I play? Miss Xiaolu happily jumped up. With a face full of smiles, she sat in front of the zither table and said with a charming smile, Listen carefully. Her voice was like a little girl showing off in front of her big brother. Okay. The sound of the zither cheerfully sounded. It was happy meeting again. The sound of the zither flowed smoothly and revealed incomparable joy. It was as if a pair of close friends had finally met after a long time and had endless things to talk about. They were so happy that they could not contain themselves. In the process of playing, Miss Xiaolu even closed her eyes with a sweet smile on her face. She was completely relaxed. Her fingers moved nimbly and her body swayed along with the music. The song ended. What a good song, happy meeting again. Chu Yang applauded and praised. How was it? Miss Xiaolu proudly puffed out her chest. Ah, very good. This is the best song I have ever heard. Chu Yang smiled meaningfully. This song is complete. Zither sound, zither skill, hand feel, heart music, soul music. They are all filled to the brim. He chuckled and said, Little girl, now do you know what soul music is? Miss Xiaolu was startled. She closed her eyes and carefully thought about it. She seemed to have understood something and said, So that's how it is. You are a great master of music. You can put your heart into the music. Of course, this is already the peak for an ordinary zither master. But for a zither master like you, it is far from enough. Chu Yang slowly said, Alu, you have to move yourself first? I understand. Miss Xiaolu happily jumped up and down. She was so excited that her eyes shined and said, Big brother Chu Yang, thank you. I accept your thanks. Chu Yang laughed. You have to remember that putting your heart into the music is different from putting your soul into it. Putting your soul into it is completely different. Putting everything into it, you are the zither. Yes. Putting everything into it, I am the zither. Miss Xiaolu's eyes shined. After putting everything into it, the next step. Chu Yang slowly said word by word, transcending it again, is another realm, transcending it again. Miss Xiaolu was completely stunned. Zither and martial arts, in this world, no matter which field it is, there is no limit. Chu Yang slowly said, In this world, there will never be a true peak. There will never be a true regret. Miss Xiaolu carefully pondered over these words and became dazed. After a long time, Miss Xiaolu finally regained her senses. She gently sat down and regained her composure. She softly said, Big brother Chu Yang, you came to the House of Exceptional Beauties today for a reason, right? Chu Yang nodded and calmly said, Yes, there is indeed a matter. I want to ask you for a favor. You help me a lot. Miss Xiaolu calmly said, No matter what you want me to help you with, just say it. No. Chu Yang shook his head, I did not help you. With your perception, you will understand this principle sooner or later. He raised his hand to stop Miss Xiaolu from speaking and solemnly said, Moreover, even if I helped you, I did not come here to exchange conditions with you. This kind of exchange, even if I helped you, would be an insult to music. It would also be an insult to me. Chu Yang's expression revealed a trace of melancholy and confusion. He slowly said, This is the point of view of the person closest to me and it is not mine. She is not in this world. Therefore, I want her theory to be able to shake the world and surpass everyone. From this point of view, you are the one who helped me. Chu Yang bitterly said. Miss Xiaolu was moved. She could feel the helplessness and sadness in Chu Yang's words. This kind of deep emotion could even make her feel the same way. She believed that this was absolutely not a lie. No one could lie like this. Is this friend your? She is the most important person in my life. Chu Yang bitterly smiled and bitterly said, I hope that this theory can help you and give you inspiration. I hope that you can ascend to the throne of the world's number one. It is also equivalent to fulfilling my wish. As for her name, Chu Yang murmured, it can only be in my heart. Miss Xiaolu looked at him without blinking. After a long time, she smiled and said, I will definitely be able to do it. Her voice was firm and resolute as if she was making a promise. Thank you. Chu Yang sincerely said. Haha, now you should say it, right? Miss Xiaolu gently smiled. What do you need my help with? I will think about it and see if I can help. Next year you are going to leave a province, right? Yes. Perhaps I will need your help at that time, but I need you to start preparing now. Chu Yang slowly said, at that time we will meet in a province. I need you to prepare a few identities for me to hide and use. No problem. Miss Xiaolu said with certainty, even though we are not allowed to participate in the struggle for power in the lower three heavens, it is easy to cover for you. Diwu Qingro would not dare to do anything to us. Once Chu Yang opened his mouth, she knew what he wanted to do. Thank you. Chu Yang said seriously. Naturally, national affairs could not be done casually. The support of House of Exceptional Beauties would determine the success or failure of this trip. No need to thank me. Miss Xiaolu said calmly and then smiled, I am not making a deal. Haha. Chu Yang laughed and could not help but touch her nose. You little girl. Miss Xiaolu's smile was filled with warmth. She felt as if she really had a brother who cared for her. It was a feeling of happiness and warmth. I really don't know. What is your full name? Chu Yang scratched his head in distress. I am not a good brother. I don't even know my little sister's name. What a failure. Haha, you are always mischievous. Miss Xiaolu laughed cheerfully. My name is Jun Lu. Do you remember it? Jun Lu, good name. We are Bamboo. Brother Chu Yang, do you know Bamboo? Miss Xiaolu playfully tilted her head. Chapter 213. Green bamboo is the master of heaven and earth. You are an elegant scholar, so you should cherish your bamboo. When the green bamboo moves, dragons and tigers appear. When the green bamboo is angry, heaven and earth will be turned upside down. Chu Yang was shocked. He took a deep breath and said, so it's you guys. Jun Shiju's people. Black Devil Dark Bamboo Lone Guest. Dark Bamboo. Jun Shiju. The mysterious woman who controlled all the dark forces in the lower three heavens. Jun Shiju's people. Although Chu Yang felt that he had overestimated the origin of the House of Exceptional Beauties, he didn't expect it to be Dark Bamboo. How big was the lower three heavens? Chu Yang didn't know, but he knew that even if it was smaller than the lower three heavens, it wouldn't be that small. Moreover, according to the order of lower three heavens, the upper three heavens should be bigger than the lower three heavens. In the lower three heavens, all the big clans had their own territories. However, there were also countless dark forces. The lower three heavens could be said to be in chaos. It was a complete Jianghu. However, there were rules. All the big clans didn't invade each other and had their own alliances. Although the dark forces were unruly, they also had their own circles. And the dark forces of the lower three heavens had the Monarch Bamboo Union as their alliance leader. The Monarch Bamboo League was a homonym of Monarch League. It was Dark Bamboo. No one in the lower three heavens dared not to show respect to the Bamboo Monarch token. This was an abnormally powerful force. If it was only about the number of experts, the good and the bad were mixed. But if it was about the number of people, it was a C. Chu Yang remembered that in his previous life, 2 super clans of the three heavens had provoked Jun Shiju for some unknown reason. The result was that the Bamboo Monarch had issued a command, and the dark forces within the radius of several thousand miles had rushed over like a tidal wave. These 2 super clans had persevered for merely 7 days, and had vanished like smoke in thin air. Such a terrifying force. Chu Yang finally understood why the House of Exceptional Beauties cared so much about worldly things like gold and silver. Because the big clans might not care about these things, but the dark forces needed them. Brother Chu Yang also knows my sister's name? Jun Lulu was a bit surprised. She thought that her sister had never appeared in the lower three heavens, so Chu Yang shouldn't know. She didn't expect him to say it. Moreover, the 32 words of the Monarch Bamboo League only appeared last year, but Chu Yang had casually recited it. For a moment he couldn't help but be surprised. He couldn't help but have doubts about Chu Yang's origin. Super strength, impressive female prestige, how could I not know? Chu Yang sighed softly. Jun Lulu's words made it clear that Jun Shizhu had already grasped the power of the Monarch Bamboo Union. Chu Yang didn't expect it to be so early. He originally thought that since she was as famous as Gu Duxing and the others, she would naturally be around the same age. But now, it seemed that the boss of the Monarch Bamboo Union was older than he had imagined. Thinking about it again, he felt relieved. As long as the people of the three heavens reached the level of revered martial artist or above, they would generally live a long life. The people from 100 years ago would be equally famous as the people from 100 years later. That would not be strange. At this moment, a maid ran in a panic and said, young miss, it's bad. There's a fight down there. It's Duke Chu's companions and Duke Lien's companions. Why? It's Master Lien and the others who have been picking on us, the maidservant stammered. Ah. Jun Lulu's expression became very strange. With King of Hell Chu's fierce reputation, it was already a blessing for him not to provoke these officials and clans in Iron Cloud Citadel. But these people actually took the initiative to provoke King of Hell Chu? This matter is too ridiculous, isn't it? Was this Lien Fanlei's head filled with shit? Ah Lu, it seems that we won't be able to eat dinner. Chu Yang smiled faintly. You still want to eat? Jun Lulu rolled her eyes and said, just now was enough for you to not be hungry for 3 days. Chu Yang laughed and turned around to leave. It turned out that after Chu Yang went in, Lien Fanlei and the others began to mock him out of jealousy. Under Gu Duxing's suppression, GMO Luo Kadi, and the others pretended not to hear anything. With their status, Lien Fanlei was naturally ignored. Even if there were 100 Lien Fanlei's clans added together, they still wouldn't be enough to make them angry. In GMO's words, you want me to personally kill you? Wouldn't that be giving you too much face? Lien Fanlei and the others were proud of themselves for cursing without using vulgarities. But after a while the other side didn't respond at all. They couldn't help but feel bored. So they gave up on attacking. In this house of exceptional beauties, no one dared to be presumptuous. Then they started to drink their tea and talk loudly. However, this group of people started to talk about King of Hell Chu as they talked. Lien Fanlei shamelessly said, what King of Hell Chu? Haha, in my opinion he is just SOSO. What superior intelligence. Who wouldn't be able to do something like that? During this time, King of Hell Chu seemed to have fallen out of favor. When Lien Fanlei said this, he was full of confidence. One of the youths cautiously said, you can't say it like that. King of Hell Chu used his own intelligence to find so many traitors. This ability is admirable. Intelligence? Bullshit. Lien Fanlei laughed and said, let's talk about that Li guy from the Imperial Censorate. Haha, who doesn't know that he is corrupt and cares about people's lives? Is there even a need to investigate this? As long as he wants to do something, he will do it. Besides, there is also that Wang guy from the Ministry of Revenue. He exchanged hundreds of letters with Great Zhao. Who doesn't know about this? He actually gave all the credit to King of Hell Chu. In my opinion, King of Hell Chu is simply an idiot. And there is also someone who is in contact with Great Zhao's spies. Isn't this something that can be confirmed as long as someone is sent to investigate? How can you say that King of Hell Chu's intelligence is higher than the heavens? In my opinion, King of Hell Chu is simply an idiot. Ha ha ha. Lien Fanlei's saliva was flying everywhere as he commented. Suddenly he couldn't help but laugh loudly. Turning around, he saw GMO holding his stomach and laughing with tears flowing down his face. Ah, I really didn't expect this. GMO laughed wildly and said, everyone says that there are many idiots in the lower three heavens. I didn't believe it. So there really is such an idiot that makes people speechless. I'm really fucked up. Speak more clearly. Gu Duxing also couldn't help but laugh, but he still scolded him with an angry face. I really can't help it. I can't. GMO held his stomach, his face twisted in pain. It's true, second brother. I've seen many idiots, but this is the first time I've seen such an idiot who is so arrogant. Impudent. Lien Fanlei's white face finally turned red. He said angrily, this immortal. Are you talking about me? Fuck. He actually became smart in the blink of an eye. I said it so vaguely, but he actually understood. GMO was dumbfounded. This IQ really makes me speechless. Lien Fanlei's face was so gloomy that it looked like water was about to drip out. Sir, even if you want to insult someone, you should at least give a reason. If you don't have a reason, then don't blame me for being impolite. Reason? Ha. GMO laughed loudly. Sir Lian, you're wantonly criticizing King of Hell Chu here. Do you know how laughable that is? Everything you said was written on the imperial ranking list. And you're using that as an excuse? Left you calling him a shit, right, you calling him an idiot, you're really enjoying it? But what are you using to scold him? You're using the evidence that he investigated and announced to the world to scold him? Who's the idiot here? It's really hard to say. The person has already been caught, his head has already been chopped off, and all the evidence has already been announced to the world. You're smart now? GMO mercilessly mocked. There are loopholes here and there. You're really smart. Why don't you use that brain of yours that's been crushed but not crushed? Think about it. All this evidence, if it were you, would you be able to do it? You would only be able to fart here after everyone else is done. How about Tai Butian? Tai Butian is known as the #1 genius of Ironcloud Citadel. Before King of Hell Chu arrived, she could not do anything about these spies. You're smarter than Tai Butian? Why are you so awesome? If you're so awesome, why didn't Tai Butian use you? Why is Tai Butian so stupid? Lian Fanlei's face was completely red. He was extremely angry, but in his anger, he regained his composure. How could he dare to say that he was smarter than Tai Butian in front of everyone? That was the current emperor. Who are you? Lian Fanlei asked with a dark face. Who am I? You don't deserve to know. GMO let out a long laugh. Especially a bastard like you who picked up the wisdom of others and then attacked the original author. You don't deserve to know. Hearing this, if Lian Fanlei could still control his temper, then he would be a saint. He no longer cared about the rules of the House of Exceptional Beauties and screamed, "Beat him! If he dies, I'll take responsibility." Beat him? GMO crossed his arms and sneered, "You dare to beat people? Are you not afraid of the laws of Ironcloud Nation?" Laws. In this place the elders are the laws. Lian Fanlei shouted angrily and urged, "Go! Beat him! Beat him!" The guards behind him stepped forward. The other guards were also unwilling to be left behind. One by one, they rolled up their sleeves and were about to rush forward. Stop. A cold voice said, "Whoever fights in the House of Exceptional Beauties will die." These words were so loud that even the huge charcoal stove in the hall flickered twice. Dust fell from the roof of the pavilion. "When we get out, I will teach you a lesson." Lian Fanlei said ferociously, "Little one, I will let you know what regret is. If you offend me, what will happen to you?" Ayaya. I'm so scared. GMO crossed his arms and looked like a pitiful little girl who met a pervert. He even looked at them one by one. I'm so scared, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Lian Fanlei was fuming. At this time, Chu Yang came down from upstairs and said casually, "You're already so old, why are you wasting time with trash? Let's go." Feng Xian went out first and did not even look at Lian Fanlei. Chapter 214. Watching Chu Yang leave, Jun Lulu sighed softly from upstairs and said, "This Lian Fanlei is really unlucky. To provoke King of Hell Chu at such a critical time, isn't he just looking for death?" Originally, King of Hell Chu had already killed most of his people. During this period of time, when the new emperor ascended the throne, he was quiet for a while to give face to the new emperor. Now that the critical moment has passed, he was looking for someone to show off his power. He was not sure who he was looking for, but he directly sent his head to King of Hell Chu's butcher knife. Yes, if King of Hell Chu wants to go to Great Jiao, then in order to confuse Diwu Qingro, he must first create a huge disturbance in Ironcloud Citadel to make Diwu Qingro think that he is still in Ironcloud. This way, his actions in Great Jiao will be safer. Just the Lian clan alone cannot reach this level. There must be others. Another elegant voice said in a low voice. Ah yes. Jun Lulu turned around and returned to her room. She said, "Duke Yu, in your opinion, this King of Hell Chu, what do you think? He can be considered a top character." Duke Yu, who had never shown himself, said in a low voice, "However, this person is very dangerous." Very dangerous? Jun Lulu frowned. On his body there is a dangerous aura. Duke Yu said casually, "However, his current strength is too low to threaten us." Is it about going to Great Jiao? Jun Lulu asked. Let's prepare 3 people for him. Duke Yu said casually, 3 young musicians, 2 men and 1 woman. One of them is surnamed Chu. The other 2 are not to be named. If needed, then use them. If not, then forget it. This is not a big deal. Good. However, Our house of exceptional beauties cannot be used by him for nothing. When he comes back we must make him pay a price. Duke, you whispered, I heard that he has a few divine weapons. Alu, why don't you take one and play with it? Divine weapon. Jun Lulu revealed a startled expression. She suddenly smiled and said, Brother, do you think she was just helping him out, and that she would take away his precious divine weapon? Duke Yu's words were very strange. Cough cough. I'm going to cultivate. Duke Yu didn't say anything else. Jun Lulu's face revealed a trace of hidden bitterness as she muttered, It's like this every time. When we reach a certain point he runs away. As the Minister of Revenue, Lord Lian Qinggue had been extremely busy during this period of time. When he finally finished dealing with official matters, he straightened his back and hurriedly walked out to sit in a sedan chair and rush home. Along the way, his brows were furrowed and his mind was preoccupied. The deficit of the Ministry of Revenue was a huge hole. Although he had done everything flawlessly over the years, the new emperor had just ascended the throne. He had to be alert. If he was caught, his whole family would be finished. Fortunately, until now the emperor still had a lot of trust in him. In the following period of time, he had to do something on the accounts and make up for some omissions. He also had to give some benefits to his subordinates to ensure that nothing went wrong. It would be best if he could make some political achievements. When he got home, before he could even sit down, his son, Lian Fanlei, rushed in and almost choked him to death. Father, I want to use a few shadow guards. What do you want to do? Lian Qinggue staggered. How could a shadow guard be moved so casually? They were protecting the country's treasury. There's a brat who doesn't have eyes. I have to cripple him. Lian Fanlei gritted his teeth. Someone provoked you? Lian Qinggue's lungs were about to explode from anger, but he still held it in and asked in detail. He had to know who it was that offended who, right? It was at the House of Exceptional Beauties. Someone with the surname Chu. Lian Fanlei was so angry that he jumped up and down and quickly told him what happened. Lian Qinggue was so angry that he almost fainted. He knew that his son was an idiot, but he didn't think that he was an idiot to this extent. Not only did he fight with someone in a brothel, he even had to use shadow guards for this. The old man was in danger every day. He was so scared that he almost couldn't breathe. He was afraid that there would be a loophole and he would become the new emperor's target. He didn't even dare to say a single word. His son actually provoked this and that outside, and even forced him to send out a secret guard to help him fight for a woman's favor. Pa! With a loud slap, Lian Qinggue roared in anger, Bastard, who told you to go to the House of Exceptional Beauties? Can't you be a bit more obedient? Father. Lian Fanlei covered his burning face and froze. Even in his dreams he didn't think that his father would hit him, and hit him so hard. This kind of thing had happened before, but his father had never reacted like this. The sound of horses galloping could be heard, and a loud shout was heard, Butian Pavilion is on business. Everyone please leave. Listening to the sound of horses, it seemed like they were coming towards him. Lian Qinggue's face paled. He didn't have time to teach his son and rushed out of the door. He was immediately stunned. On the main street in front of the gate, dozens of tall horses with pitch-black bodies were carrying dozens of expressionless black-clothed people. The one at the front was Hall Master Chengong of Butian Pavilion. Lian Qinggue's mind was blank. Arriving in front of the Lian residence, Chengong waved his hand, and the assassins of Butian Pavilion spread out and surrounded the entire Lian residence. Chengong floated down from his horse and walked over. He nodded, Senior Lian, what a coincidence. We meet again. Lian Qinggue wanted to cry. What coincidence? The person I don't want to see the most in the entire capital is you. Seeing you, Chengong, is definitely not a good thing. Senior Cheng. Lian Qinggue's voice was trembling. He bowed and asked, This is, under the orders of the minister, I am bringing Senior Lian's family to investigate. Chengong said politely, It is only an investigation. I hope Senior Lian can cooperate. Investigation. Lian Qinggue felt the world was spinning. When Chengong caught the dozens of officials, he also said the same thing. What crime did I commit? Lian Qinggue tried one last time. I want to see the emperor. I want to see the emperor. I am an important official of the court. You Butian Pavilion have no right to catch me. The minister said that his original target was not Senior Lian. However, there was one thing that piqued the minister's curiosity. Chengong sighed. What thing? Curious? Lian Qinggue was puzzled. What could I do that piqued King of Hell Chu's curiosity? Even though I am the Minister of Revenue, I don't think I have that much face. Ah, it is nothing. Chang'ang said calmly, I heard that your father spent 150,000 taels of silver at the House of Exceptional Beauties to buy a song from a beauty. Senior Lien, this is what piqued the minister's curiosity. Not only the minister but I am also curious. Senior Lien is really rich. TSK 150,000 taels of silver just to listen to a song? As far as I know, Senior Lien's monthly salary is 80 taels of silver. A year's salary is 1,000 taels of silver, right? Chang'ang said, Senior Lien, your father spent 200 years just to listen to a song? This is slander. Lien Qinggui's whole body was cold. His eyes were blurred. He could only deny it. How could there be such a thing? Senior Lien, did your father not tell you? Chang'ang blinked mysteriously, the person who was jealous of your father at the House of Exceptional Beauties. He lowered his voice and said mysteriously, his surname is Chu. His surname is Chu. Lien Qinggui murmured. Suddenly, he remembered that his son said that he wanted to send the secret guards to deal with that person. A person with the surname Chu? Holding on to a sliver of hope, Lien Qinggui said shakily, could it be the minister? Chang'ang had a, you are very smart look on his face and nodded his head. Oh ho ho oh ho ho. Lien Qinggui didn't know whether he was crying or laughing. Strange sounds came from his mouth. The next moment, Senior Lien Qinggui's eyes closed and his body fell to the ground. He fainted without a doubt. Before he fainted, his only thought was, this is really funny. I can't even hide from this person. My son actually went to fight with him out of jealousy. In front of King of Hell Chu, he spent 150,000 taels of silver just to listen to a song? This is too funny. Lien Fanlei, who followed behind him, stood there in a daze. He couldn't believe what he had just thought. So that person was King of Hell Chu. No wonder the people he brought were so dissatisfied with him for slandering King of Hell Chu. The next moment, Senior Lien started to cry. He cried and shouted at the same time, I really don't know who he is. The minister orders, take away all the Lien family members. Seal all the accounts of the Ministry of Revenue. Check the accounts carefully. Chang'ang's order shook the entire city. Seal all the accounts of the Ministry of Revenue and carefully check the accounts? How many people would be out of luck? The space of Iron Cloud Citadel shook. Last time it was to investigate spies. But this time, it was to investigate corruption and bribery. A huge amount of wealth came from an unknown source. Believe me, no matter what dynasty, the number of corrupt officials is always greater than the number of spies. As for the huge amount of wealth, think about it yourself. These officials, which one of them didn't have shit on them? The prison of the Ministry of Justice was once again commandeered by Butian Pavilion. A while ago, when the new emperor ascended the throne, everyone was pardoned. All the criminals in the city were released. This was the time when the prison needed to be filled. The next morning, when Tai Butian was in court, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. How come there were so few of the military officials under him? Originally, there were several hundred people in court. Now it seemed that there were less than half. What happened? Did everyone go on vacation? His Majesty Tai Butian was not worried. Your Majesty, save us. Even if someone gave the order, it would not be so orderly. More than half of the military officials knelt down. They knelt for a long time, tears streaming down their faces. Apart from a few big shots, there were no more than 30 people left standing in the imperial court. However, the remaining people, regardless of whether they were high or low officials, all stood up straight and their faces were filled with pride. Only when the yellow sand is washed away could one see the gold. Although the amount of gold was a bit small. What happened? Where are the others? Tai Butian was also surprised. All the officials looked at each other. No one dared to speak. After a long time, one of the officials kneeling at the front trembled and said, everyone else was taken away by King of Hell Chu. Even us. Your Majesty. This official suddenly burst into tears. There are still people from Butian Pavilion outside the Golden Palace waiting to catch us. Chapter 215. What exactly happened? Tai Butian's face was as heavy as water. All the kneeling officials did not dare to speak. They just kept kowtowing. We are guilty. We deserve to die 10,000 deaths. Who can tell me what happened? What happened? Tai Butian slowly sat up from the dragon throne, her gaze awe-inspiring. Actually, it's not a big deal. Iron Cloud's Prime Minister Huangfu Mingjing stroked his beard. He was one of the few people standing. He said calmly, Your Majesty, it was Minister Chu who sealed the Ministry of Revenue and arrested Lien Chengue. Moreover, Butian Pavilion is investigating the Ministry of Revenue's accounts. Minister Chu has already given the order of the King of Hell to investigate this matter thoroughly. Whoever is found, he will be arrested. Whoever is caught, he will be killed. The Prime Minister's last few words were cold. It was obvious that he was taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. This made all the kneeling people's faces turn even paler. But, what does the Ministry of Revenue's accounts have to do with them? Tai Butian looked at the dozens of people kneeling in front of him in shock. There were also more than 100 people who disappeared today. Suddenly he felt dizzy and his body swayed. Among them, there are people from the Ministry of Revenue, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Appointments, and Ministry of War. These years, it seems that everyone is not very well off, so, cough cough. Huangfu Mingjing coughed and said slowly, so many officials have set their sights on the National Treasury. And the National Treasury is under the Ministry of Revenue's jurisdiction. Therefore, everyone's lives suddenly became better. Moreover, after the matter, as long as Minister Lien uses his methods, cough cough, everything will be fine. Huangfu Mingjing seemed helpless, but his words were vicious and merciless. And now, I don't know what happened, but Minister Chu found out about these things. Huangfu Mingjing said cautiously, well, I heard that Minister Chu was furious. Last night, Butian Pavilion raided 35 households. Tai Butian's face was pale. He said, could it be that these people were involved in the National Treasury? Tai Butian's finger trembled as he pointed at the officials kneeling in front of him. The officials did not dare to speak. They all trembled and knelt with their foreheads pressed against the ground. Seeing this, Tai Butian's body swayed again. Suddenly, she closed her eyes with a splitting headache. He didn't blame Chu Yang at all. But he only felt heartache. Incomparable heartache. The imperial court? What kind of place was that? The people of the world yearned for it day and night. Some local officials would never be able to stand here in their entire lives, not even for a moment. It could be said that above the Golden Palace were the true pillars of Iron Cloud Nation. This was the foundation of the entire Iron Cloud Nation. If this place was rotten, then Iron Cloud Nation was rotten from the roots. These years were the most difficult times for Iron Cloud. They were supposed to be in the same boat through thick and thin, but they didn't expect that each of them would be more aggressive than the other in trying to poach the country's people. He had painstakingly cultivated them only to cultivate a bunch of vermin. Hello. Very good. Very good. Tai Butian gritted her teeth and nodded her head. Her face was ashen. Suddenly, she let out a sorrowful and indignant laugh. Ah. Not bad indeed. You are indeed the pillar of my Iron Cloud. What a great talent. Regarding the National Treasury, he had always known that it was a serious matter. He had always wanted to find a reason to investigate it after ascending the throne. No matter how serious it was just a few officials. At most, it would involve a dozen or 20 people. That was already shocking enough. No matter what, he would never have thought that there would be so many people involved. Without these people, there would only be 30 or 40 people left in the imperial court. It was as good as empty. But, if he didn't go, should he keep them? Keep these vermin? All of you kneel here. Tai Butian angrily kicked the golden table in front of the dragon throne. She roared, immediately summoned Minister Chu to the palace. After less than an hour, the sound of horse hooves could be heard. They had actually arrived in front of the Golden Palace. If it was any other time, there would have been people jumping out to accuse and impeach the emperor. But today not a single person spoke. Reporting to your majesty, Minister Chu requests an audience. Bam! In an eerie silence, the sound of slow and steady footsteps could be heard. It was slow and rhythmic. The next moment, everyone felt their vision darken. A man in black appeared at the entrance of the Golden Palace. The black robe covered him from head to toe. The only part of his face that was exposed was a hideous golden mask. The moment this person appeared at the entrance of the Golden Palace, the temperature of the entire Golden Palace seemed to drop by a few degrees. Especially the officials who had ulterior motives. They felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. It was as if this person's arrival brought with him the aura of hell. Find a seat for Minister Chu. Before Chu Yang could speak, Tai Butian spoke first. Tai Butian did not want the officials to know that the current Butian Pavilion was actually not under her control. And Chu Yang was also not an official of Iron Cloud. This was too shameful for an emperor. Thank you, your majesty. Chu Yang naturally understood Tai Butian's hint. Before he sat down, he thanked Tai Butian and sat down steadily. May I know the reason for your Majesty's summons today? Minister Chu, you must be very busy these 2 days. Tai Budian smiled and said, regarding the matter of the National Treasury, I wonder what Minister Chu plans to do? She went straight to the point. According to your Majesty's previous promise, Butian Pavilion has the right to act first and report later. Chu Yang said casually, therefore after such a big incident last night, we have already verified that several vermin were killed in Shi City this morning. A total of more than 300 people. When these words were spoken, the officials kneeling on the ground trembled even more. What about the rest? Tai Budian let out a long breath. This requires your Majesty's judgment. Chu Yang said casually, however, according to our Butian Pavilion's opinion, it is best to kill them all. After all, our brothers have paid a lot for this investigation. It is very tiring. Kill them all? Some people had already fainted. There were also people who were quietly crying. Old Prime Minister Huangfu Mingjing could not help but roll his eyes. Kill them all? That was tens of thousands of people. The old man felt more and more that something was wrong. Before Chu Yang came, Tai Budian was furious. But after Chu Yang came, the atmosphere seemed to have become very strange. Rather than saying that the two of them were asking and answering questions, it was better to say that they were acting out a play. One was the good cop, the other was the bad cop. Killing them all is not a good idea, right? Tai Budian frowned. You must know that if the whole family is killed, there are tens of thousands of people. Your Majesty is overthinking. Chu Yang said calmly, Iron Cloud has been fighting for years. There are already 8 million young people who have died in the flames of war. Iron Cloud can still afford to lose tens of thousands of people. Minister, can you give them a way out? Tai Budian said with a smile. Since your Majesty is asking for mercy, we can naturally deal with them according to the severity of the case. Chu Yang said, as for the results of the investigation, I will send them to your Majesty. Your Majesty can dictate. Tai Budian snorted and said, fine. Chu Yang's words were obviously a jab. How could Tai Budian not understand? Dictate? What is dictate? However, Chu Yang's words were also a reminder. As for what reminder, that was unknown. At this point, the play between the two of them was over. Minister Chu, can you talk with me? Tai Budian said with a smile. I don't want to disturb your Majesty's peace. Chu Yang said lightly. Men, prepare the golden tower for us. Tai Budian smiled. This is a big gift from me to your Majesty. Chu Yang said softly, today's foundation is shaken and there are killings everywhere, but in the future there will be long-term peace and stability. Your Majesty has ascended the throne. In a moment of carelessness I forgot to give you a gift. Let's use this as compensation. Minister Chu's words made Tai Buqian's eyes almost pop out of their sockets. She was both angry and amused. In the end she just sighed. The two of them talked for a long time in the palace. No one knew when Minister Chu left, but everyone's hearts were finally at ease. At least, they wouldn't die immediately. They had a little time to breathe. After a few days, Tai Budian issued an imperial edict. Those who embezzled less than 50,000 taels of silver shall hand over their gains and redeem themselves by meritorious service. Those who embezzled more than 100,000 taels of silver shall hand over their gains and be demoted to a commoner. Those who embezzled more than 100,000 taels of silver shall be beheaded in public and their families exiled. As for those who embezzled more than 1,000,000 taels of silver, their entire family shall be executed. This decision seemed lax, but Iron Cloud Citadel was also dyed red with blood. Thousands of heads were beheaded just like that. The law could not punish the masses. This principle still applied at this time. If everyone was beheaded, Iron Cloud's royal court would probably collapse immediately. Tai Budian could only deal with it slowly. But one thing was for sure. If one day these people did not perform well, then this old debt would immediately be reopened. Chu Yang stirred up this matter to establish Butian Pavilion's prestige and became the villain himself. Moreover, it allowed Tai Budian to win the hearts of the majority. This matter would directly skip the short period of adjustment for Tai Butian's ascension to the throne. It would directly force Tai Butian's royal court to enter a period of maturity. Although this royal court would be half empty, after this matter at least for a long time, the appearance of Iron Cloud Citadel's officials would be renewed. This was Chu Yang's big gift to Tai Budian. To congratulate him on his ascension. As for the cause of this matter, Minister Chu did not say anything. If he said that it was because he was jealous of someone at the House of Exceptional Beauties, the new emperor would probably faint from anger. After this matter, King of Helchu's notoriety shook the heavens. King of Helchu's brutality made everyone who heard it gasp in amazement. In the hearts of the officials, King of Helchu's already terrible reputation increased by 2 pounds and reached a new level. But in the hearts of the people, King of Helchu's reputation soared to the heavens. Everyone in Ironcloud Citadel was in danger. No matter what they did, even though there were fewer officials, their efficiency increased a lot. Cheng Yun he finally brought his people back to the capital of Great Zhao after a long and tiring journey of nearly a month. Just one more day and the Menghun solution will be over. Chapter 216. After crossing the border of Ironcloud Nation, they spent 20 days in a world of ice and snow. With great difficulty they finally reached the border of Great Zhao. After such a long time, they hurriedly found the local contact of Golden Horse Riders Department and reported the news to Diwu Qingro as soon as possible. It could be said that each word was filled with blood and tears. Golden Horse Riders Department was shaken. In the Prime Minister's manner, Diwu Qingro and Han Buchu looked at Cheng Yunhe, who had obviously lost a lot of weight. A few days ago the news had already arrived. Jing Menghun had also personally gone to bring Yin Wu Fa back. However, after a few days of buffer time, Diwu Qingro still felt dizzy after hearing Cheng Yunhe's report. This time the meeting was much larger. There were 2 more people, Jing Menghun and Yin Wu Tian. The other 2 king-level leaders of Golden Horse Riders Department. The 5 of them sat in a semicircle facing Diwu Qingro. Everyone's face was gloomy. The matter is just like this. Cheng Yunhe finally finished speaking with difficulty. Right now, Cheng Yunhe's cheeks were deeply sunken and his cheekbones were protruding. His 2 eyes seemed to have become 2 empty holes. The torment of this journey was truly indescribable. Han Buchu and Gao Xing looked at each other and felt speechless. This time, Cheng Yunhe went to take charge of the overall situation. However, after he went, he was basically useless. If he could be said to be useful, then at the most dangerous moment, he was able to save the last of his strength and escape unscathed. However, the remaining strength was so pitiful. However, this matter could not be blamed on Cheng Yunhe. Everything was Kong Shang Xian's own decision. One wrong step after another, it led to a situation that could not be cleaned up. But now, Kong Shang Xian was dead. Thus, even if they found someone to take responsibility, there would be no one left. How could Diwu Qingro not be depressed? 2 king-level leaders, 3 revered-level command horse riders, and more than 30 revered-level experts were buried in Iron Cloud. Diwu Qingro's face was calm as he slowly said, and all of this was because they died in the hands of an enemy. They died in the hands of an enemy that could have been avoided. Diwu Qingro laughed softly. The affairs of the world are strange and bizarre to this extent. I can't help but say that this is an eternal story. His face was very calm, but his tone of voice was very oppressive. It made people who heard it feel their hair stand on end. Prime Minister, please calm down. Han Buchu probed. This matter cannot be blamed on the king-level masters, nor can it be blamed on Brother Cheng. King of Helchu is too cunning. King of Helchu is too cunning? Diwu Qingro closed his eyes and said, 3,000 years ago, there was a wise man who was the emperor of Tianyu. His name was Dongfang Qing Tian. At that time, Dongfang Qing Tian's wisdom was unparalleled and his plans were flawless. He was known as the wisest man in the Chongtian continent. He assisted King Tianyu in conquering the north and south, conquering a huge territory. Han Buchu and the others were confused. Why would the Prime Minister suddenly tell a story? But knowing that he must have a deeper meaning, he continued to listen quietly. As a result, the power of Tianyu country expanded rapidly. Everyone in the surrounding countries was in danger. But at that time the opposing country, Fire Cloud country, did not make a move. Prime Minister Qinping of Fire Cloud suppressed all the people in the country who wanted to fight and was willing to back down, allowing Tianyu country to gain a huge territory. At the peak of Tianyu country, its territory was almost the size of Great Zhao and Iron Cloud combined. But from then on, Tianyu country suffered defeat after defeat. In the end, the surrounding small countries took advantage of this opportunity and completely destroyed this giant monster. Do you know why this happened? Diwu Qingro asked. Could it be that at that time Dongfang Qing Tian was already dead? Han Buchu, Gao Sheng and the others were puzzled. Not dead. Plus he was still in control of the battle. Diwu Qingro said. Then what is going on? Han Buchu and the others were confused. A country at its peak, A top strategist and flawless plans, how could it be destroyed by a small country? During the conquest of the world, Dongfang Qingtian was at the front line in every battle. It could be said that he was the strategist and decided victory from 1,000 miles away. Do you know what a strategist is? Diwu Qingro asked. A strategist is a tent. A military tent. That's right, a tent. The key is here. Diwu Qingro sighed. After the country reached its peak, this top strategist could not personally go to the front line. He had to stay in the court to help the king. And his plans, no matter how useful they were, no matter how flawless they were, when they were sent from the capital to the front line, first, the timing did not match. Second, if the enemy had a slight reaction, the front line would not know what to do next. He could send out accurate orders, but the people below him could not accurately execute his plans. After all, not everyone is like Dongfang Qingtian. Diwu Qingro slowly said, in the end, Dongfang Qingtian could only leave the palace and go to the front line to command the army. But at that time, the situation was already unstable. A defeated army is not the same as the army that conquered the world. The army that conquered the world, even if it was a crippled army, still had a belief in their hearts. That is, after victory they could conquer the picturesque landscape and obtain wealth. But at that time the army was not like that. Especially the generals, they already had wealth. All they wanted was to preserve their lives. Under Dongfang Qingtian's unparalleled command, his side slowly stabilized the situation. But at that time he was surrounded by enemies from all sides. He could not control all of them. He could only control one side, so in the end, Tianyu's army was defeated. Dongfang Qingtian was defeated by his own country's defeated army. Thus Tianyu was destroyed. Dongfang Qingtian looked up to the sky and sighed 3 times. In the chaos he pulled out his sword and committed suicide. What was he sighing about? Han Buchu hurriedly asked. At that time Dongfang Qingtian said, prospering is like picking up dirt with a needle, failing is like pushing sand with water. Even though I could make conquering the world easy, I could not stop the decline brought by power and prosperity. Strategizing in a tent to determine victory from 1,000 miles away, this saying is not false. But, since the ancient times, who could strategize in a palace to determine victory from 1,000 miles away? My defeat was due to power and influence. I lost to prosperity. Diwu Qingro slowly finished speaking. Everyone was quiet and did not say a word. They were deep in thought. Strategizing in a tent to determine victory from 1,000 miles away, as a qualified general, this is what I should do. In the military camp, the general is in the tent. If I lost, then I deserve to die. Diwu Qingro said softly, this is not a legend. My talent is far inferior to Dongfang Qingtian's. Diwu Qingro said quietly, but I have always avoided Dongfang Qingtian's mistakes. Thus, I have always stayed in the Prime Minister's manner and allowed you to develop your own abilities. Even if you lost, as long as it was not a total loss, then with me, Diwu Qingro, here you still have a chance to make a comeback. Because even if you lost, it was your own loss, not my command. You lost, but with my command you turned the situation around. Even though I did not say anything, I made you realize your own shortcomings. Step by step you grew up. Diwu Qingro smiled bitterly. Now most of you can hold your own. You are my biggest trump card to conquer the world. Do you understand? Han Buchu was moved and said, Prime Minister's thoughts make us feel ashamed. Kong Shangxan lost, but he threw himself there. Diwu Qingro shook his head. This is the biggest failure. It is also the first time since the establishment of the Diwu group that we have suffered a crushing defeat. The reason is not that King of Helchu is too cunning. Diwu Qingro said seriously, it is that we have been too comfortable these past few years, and there has been no challenge. Jing Menghun sighed deeply and did not speak. Yin Wu Tian retorted, but King of Helchu's treachery is real. Not true. King-level leader Yin, let me ask you. If Kong Shangxan had carried out such a mission when Golden Horse Riders Department was just established, would he have acted on his own? Would he have dared? Diwu Qingro asked slowly. He would not have dared. Yin Wu Tian was flabbergasted for a while before finally lowering his head. Yes, he would not have dared. Diwu Qingro said, but now he dares. Not only does he dare, but he also dares to take all his subordinates with him. He already thinks that Golden Horse Riders Department is very powerful. He is very confident in everything he does. So he dared. So he died. Diwu Qingro said seriously. Kong Shangxan's weight was far less than Dongfang Qingtian's, but he was still defeated by power. Diwu Qingro said seriously, so Kong Xiangxian's death was not unjust. Facing an opponent like King of Hell Chu, the moment he made such a rash decision he was already a dead man. This defeat is very deserved. Your Golden Horse Riders Department should have suffered this defeat long ago. Diwu Qingro said, facing an enemy like King of Hell Chu, if your Golden Horse Riders Department continues to be arrogant like Kong Xiangxian and Yin Wu Fa, I will not be surprised if one day Golden Horse Riders Department collapses at the hands of King of Hell Chu. Jing Minghun and Yin Wu Tian were sweating profusely. The two of them had wanted to immediately dispatch experts to take revenge. But Diwu Qingro hadn't stopped them. He had only spoken such words. And their thoughts of revenge had already disappeared without a trace. So they had felt a deep sense of crisis. Diwu Qingro's words were very serious. In recent years this was the first time Diwu Qingro had spoken so seriously. Especially to the king-level leaders like them. For a moment, even a king-level leader like Jing Minghun felt a chill down his spine. Your defeat is just like Dong Fangqing Tian's. And I am Dong Fangqing Tian. Although I can arrange things for you, if you do not do it well, you will still lose. Chapter 217. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans dripped down from Jing Minghun's forehead. Diwu Qingro did not comment on the gains and losses of this operation. He also did not comment on the things to pay attention to after this operation. However, his words clearly showed the fury in Diwu Qingro's heart. Why was Golden Horse Riders Department established? It was for Diwu Qingro to dominate the world. If Golden Horse Riders Department became a burden to Diwu Qingro, then Diwu Qingro would not mind disbanding Golden Horse Riders Department. Just like how he casually established Golden Horse Riders Department. Jing Minghun would not have any doubts. Golden Horse Riders Department was established for Diwu Qingro's benefit. But you cannot bring me benefits. Then why do you still exist? What do you want? Just for money? King-level masters are important, but can you compare to thousands of soldiers and horses? Can you help me conquer the world? No. Since you cannot and you cannot bring me any benefits, then what is the point of keeping you? Diwu Qingro was making an analysis. But he was making use of this analysis to put forward his demands for the Golden Horse Riders Department for the first time. And for the first time, Golden Horse Riders Department could cease to exist. Such a strict rule. Dong Fangqing Tian's mistake was that he believed in his own strength and wisdom. But I, Diwu Qingro, do not. Diwu Qingro looked at Jing Minghun with warm eyes and said slowly, therefore I can allow the same mistake to happen once, but I will not allow it to happen a second time. Jing Minghun felt his entire back soaked with cold sweat. He said, rest assured, Prime Minister, there will not be a second time. I believe. Diwu Qingro nodded deeply and said, failure is not scary. Death is not scary. What is scary is that failure has clouded one's mind, and hatred has blinded one's mind. Golden Horse Riders Department's revenge must be avenged. But before it is time, no one is allowed to act rashly. Jing Minghun gritted his teeth and said, yes. Diwu Qingro nodded and asked, King-level Master Yin Wu Fa's injury, how is it? He had always suppressed this topic and never allowed anyone to talk about it. Only after he had suppressed his emotions did he bring it up. This was because Diwu Qingro knew that Golden Horse Riders Department still retained the habits of Jianghu people. Only by grinding away the edges and corners of Jianghu people on a certain level could one truly possess one's own strength. Using the life of a king-level master to pay such a price was unavoidably expensive. However, Diwu Qingro was keenly aware that this was an excellent opportunity. The Golden Horse Riders Department could lose its throne, but it could never lose control. There was no doubt that Diwu Qingro had done a very good job in this regard. Third brother Yin's injury. Jing Minghun's face exposed a look of grief and indignation. My Minghun liquid can guarantee a person's vitality for a month regardless of how serious their injuries are. But third brother's legs. He suddenly raised his head and asked, Lord Qing, I would like to ask, other than a few youngsters from aristocratic families, what other people did I encounter along the way? Qing Yun, he was startled and asked, King-level leader Jing, what do you mean? As long as it was before taking the Minghun liquid, even if both of his legs were broken, I would still be able to restore them to their original state. However, third brother's legs are now completely paralyzed from the waist down. Jing Minghun's eyes were like blood as he stared at Qing Yun. This kind of injury clearly occurred after he took the Minghun liquid. Qing Yun he raised his head and closed his eyes. After a long time he let out a long sigh. He slightly gritted his teeth and said, "Regarding this matter, I don't know what is vitality and what is cultivation. I am only responsible for it and can only do so much. I have already done my best to bring him back." He raised his head and pointed a finger at his white neck. He coldly said, "I can only guarantee that this corpse-like person has not been touched by anyone along the way. If King-level leader Jing does not believe me or has any doubts, my head is right here." Qing Yi he raised his head and proudly opened his eyes. He squinted and said, "Anyone from the Golden Horse Riders Department can come and take it." Qing Yun he's grievance and indignation had reached the extreme. "I was only responsible for assisting the Golden Horse Riders Department. And I was following the Prime Minister's orders. Now you did not listen to my orders and did not cooperate with me, causing the mission to fail on the verge of success. I spared no effort and endured all kinds of difficulties and dangers to save your brother. Not only are you not grateful to me, but you even suspect that I secretly killed him?" Official Cheng's words are too harsh. Yin Wu Tian gloomily said. His eyes were like a poisonous snake's. Obviously he still did not fully believe Qing Yunhe's words. Harsh or not, justice is in everyone's heart. Qing Yunhe finally could not bear it anymore. He suddenly stood up and said loudly, "If I did not want Yin Wu Fa to live, I could have silently killed him 10,000 times along the way. Now I have a half-paralyzed cripple. What good is it for me?" Qing Yun he was indescribably indignant. "Enough." Diwu Qing Ro gently raised his hand and slowly turned to look at Yin Wu Tian, fourth king-level leader Yin. "Could it be that you think it would be better for your brother to die outside?" Yin Wu Tian quivered and shivered. He then said, "Forgive me, Prime Minister. I only have some doubts." "Then you should be suspicious of our enemy, not of the people who painstakingly brought your brother back." Diwu Qing Ro said sternly, "Yin Wu Tian, you must be careful when you speak and do things. If you ruin anything because of your hatred, then, you know the consequences." Kong Shang Xan had died, and Yin Wu Fa was crippled. The person who could not bear it the most was Yin Wu Tian. Diwu Qing Ro did not want to be so strict, but now he could only put aside the word favor. If he allowed Yin Wu Tian's hatred to spread, he did not know what would happen. Therefore, although Diwu Qing Ro did not want to, he could only suppress it. Yin Wu Tian took a deep breath and said sullenly, "What Prime Minister said is right." "Gao Sheng, do you know which clan King of Helchu used?" Diwu Qing Ro asked. Gao Sheng had already inquired about this question 7 or 8 days ago. Now that Diwu Qing Ro asked, it had a different meaning. 10 days ago, there was news in Third Heaven that the members of Mo clan had returned to Third Heaven. Gao Sheng said cautiously, "But there was a joke. Mo clan sent out 3 king-level leaders. When they returned, all 3 were seriously injured." Mo. Yin Wu Tian's eyes lit up. "Yes, Mo." Gao Sheng said, "According to legend, Mo clan was attacked by Mo clan in Iron Cloud Citadel. However, it was confirmed that no experts of Mo clan appeared in Iron Cloud Citadel at that time." Jing Minghun and Yin Wu Tian were breathing heavily. Their eyes were as round as bells. Later, king-level leader Soul Catcher was forced to tell the truth. Gao Sheng said slowly, "It turned out that they had a fight with Golden Horse Riders Department. This matter has caused a huge uproar in Third Heaven." Jing Minghun and Yin Wu Tian gritted their teeth. Mo clan. Mo clan. King of Helchu had a part to play in this matter. However, no matter what, the nature of this matter has changed. Gao Sheng said, "The testimony of the 2 king-level leaders of Mo clan was that King of Helchu had clearly stated that the opponent was Golden Horse Riders Department. However, Mo clan owed King of Helchu a favor, so they had no choice but to help." Pay attention, the key point of this sentence is that King of Helchu had clearly stated this beforehand. Gao Sheng said seriously, "Therefore Mo clan cannot blame King of Helchu." Everyone understood this principle. For example, if I told you that the opponent was Japan's imperialist, but after hearing this, you carried a bag of explosives and blew up Japan's imperial god, then it had nothing to do with me, right? Although I also wanted to, so, Mo clan took responsibility for everything? Yin Wu Tian's eyes were like a volcano that was about to erupt. Upper 3 heavens cannot participate in the clan disputes of Upper 3 heavens, and Lower 3 heavens cannot participate in the dynasty disputes of Lower 3 heavens. This is the law of the heavens. Gao Sheng rolled his eyes and said indifferently, The king-level leaders of Mo clan who violated the rules have already been taken in for questioning. No matter how this matter is handled, it is tantamount to an end. Therefore, it is extremely unwise for anyone to use this matter to make a fuss. There are arbitrators in the heavens. Perhaps King of Hell Chu had only used a loophole, but this matter has already passed. Mo clan has already admitted it, so King of Hell Chu's matter is no more. But if if King of Hell Chu uses the arbitrators to make a fuss, then the fate of Golden Horse Riders Department can be imagined. Gao Sheng's slender eyes exposed a sharp ray of light. Therefore, I think it would be better to suppress this matter and not let it go. Jing Ming Hun let out a deep breath, and the chair he was sitting on shattered with a kacha sound. Yin Wu Tian clenched his fists and his eyes were bloodshot. However, there was a trace of dejection in their expressions. Even an emperor-level master would not dare to challenge the rules of the heavens, let alone a king-level master. Yunhe, tell me about those youngsters from aristocratic clans. Diwu Qingro waved his hand and suppressed his hatred. Now was the time to talk about business. Diwu Qingro's grasp of people's hearts and human nature had become more and more cautious after the last mistake. He was watertight. Those youngsters were arguing. I only heard that one of them was called Luo Kudi, one was called GMO, and the last one was surnamed Gu. As for the other two, I do not know their names. Cheng Yun, he said cautiously, I also do not know whether they are from the clans of Upper Three Heavens or Upper Three Heavens. Luo Kudi is the second young master of the Luo clan of Upper Three Heavens. GMO is the second young master of the Ji clan of Upper Three Heavens. When Gao Sheng heard these names, his expression clearly tightened. As for Gu, could he be a member of the Gu clan? Diwu Qingro's expression was indifferent. His finger gently tapped on the table, and he did not speak for a long time. He only frowned and pondered, letting everyone digest Gao Sheng's words. Chapter 218. King of Hell Chu? Gao Sheng's eyes widened. No way. First, is Yunhe's luck really that good? At such a dangerous time, he went out and met with a group of aristocratic clan disciples? Plus, it was a group of Three Heavens clan disciples. Diwu Qingro smiled faintly. This is equivalent to a special trip to inform you that we are going to Great Province. You must be prepared. A cold light flashed in Diwu Qingro's eyes. Heart is somewhat unreasonable, right? Perhaps they said it unintentionally, and Mr. Cheng intentionally remembered it. Gao Sheng pondered. The eyebrows on his handsome face slowly wrinkled. Maybe that is the case. But the second point is that they said they were going to rob, but in the end they did not rob anything. Could it be that they waited in that snowy weather just to have some fun in the wilderness? Diwu Qingro smiled. As for the reason that they were looking for king-level Master Yin, that is even more absurd. How could the aristocratic clan disciples of Three Heavens be so bored? Third, I simply do not believe in such a coincidence. Diwu Qingro said casually, just this one is enough. So, among these people, King of Hell Chu must be among them. Diwu Qingro snorted and said, and this encounter shows that King of Hell Chu will most likely come to Great Jiao to cause trouble. And if they come to Great Jiao, then they will most likely contact Yunhe. Gao Sheng thought for a long time before slowly nodding. What Prime Minister said is indeed possible. If that's the case and we can't see through their disguise, then they will come here. Moreover, Yunhe will personally cover for them. This means that the Golden Horse Riders Department is protecting them. Great Jiao is undoubtedly the safest place for them. Han Buchu thought of this and sucked in a cold breath. But now that Prime Minister has calculated it, we just need to open the net and wait for the fish to come. Gao Sheng sneered, if King of Hell Chu really comes, then he is walking right into the net. Capturing him will be as easy as blowing off dust. Not necessarily. Diwu Qingro pondered and said, King of Hell Chu would not use such a childish trick. There must be a deeper meaning behind this. He stood up and paced back and forth. He then muttered to himself, one is the Luo clan, one is the Ji clan, and one is the Gu clan. 3 big clans of the Three Heavens. Humph humph. King of Hell Chu has spread this rumor. From this, we can infer that he has a close relationship with the young lords of several clans. King of Hell Chu doesn't have the strength right now. If he wants to deal with us, he will need to borrow some strength. Speaking of borrowing strength, these people should help him since their friendship isn't shallow. However, the people of the lower Three Heavens aren't allowed to intervene in the matters of the lower Three Heavens. So, these people can't help him openly. But, if we take the initiative to provoke them, then it's a different story. If King of Hell Chu cooperates with them to add fuel to the fire, and sow dissension once again, then it would be the same as Golden Horse Riders Department just having a fight with the Hayamo clan, and then turning around to face the three big clans. Is this King of Hell Chu's plan to borrow our strength again? Diwu Qingro gently rubbed his forehead with his hand and muttered, "Is this another big trap by King of Hell Chu?" As he thought about it, his eyes gradually revealed a sharp color, and he said, "If we face the three big clans at the same time, our Golden Horse Riders Department will be in real danger." Han Buchu, Cheng Yunhe, Gao Sheng, Jing Menghun, and Yin Wu Tian quietly listened to Diwu Qingro's analysis. He talked about the dangerous situation of the Golden Horse Riders Department being destroyed at every turn. Everyone's backs were drenched in cold sweat. If this was really King of Hell Chu's plan, then it could be said that it was all linked to each other. It was extremely dangerous. If they really thought that they had found a loophole in King of Hell Chu's plan and excitedly surrounded him, then it was almost foreseeable that the three big clans would immediately become enemies. Since we know, then it's not scary anymore. Han Buchu pondered and said, "We can start contacting the higher-ups of the three big clans and let them know about this matter. We can't borrow their strength, but they may not be willing to be used by King of Hell Chu." "That's right." Diwu Qingro said, "Let Gao Sheng handle this matter." "How about it?" "Rest assured, Xiang Mao. There will be no loopholes in this matter," Gao Sheng said confidently. "Knowing the other party's intentions, if we can't destroy it, then we are really stupid. Gao Sheng, you have to grasp the timing." Diwu Qingro said casually, "If King of Hell Chu wants to come, let him come first. Before that, keep in touch with these clans and know where they are. Wait until King of Hell Chu arrives, then inform them of this matter." Gao Sheng's spirit was roused as he said, "Yes. This is the first matter." Diwu Qingro sighed and said with some loneliness, "Iron Cloud Nation's ruler, Tai Shi fought with me for many years. He could be said to be a hero of his generation. I've always wanted to keep him alive to make use of him. I didn't expect that he would die in such weather. The plan I've been preparing for so many years has become useless. There's something fishy about this." Diwu Qingro said casually, "Tai Shi was living well. Why did he die at this time? And Du Shi also disappeared at this time. If this matter has nothing to do with King of Hell Chu, I don't believe it. Order all the spies in Iron Cloud Nation to immediately spread rumors that King of Hell Chu killed Tai Shi. Tai Shi killed Tai Shi. Regarding this matter, Buchu, you write a story and spread it out. If Tai Butian is suspicious, that would be the best. Even if Tai Butian doesn't believe it, someone will." "Yes, Prime Minister." One more thing, Tai Shi died and Tai Butian ascended the throne. Everyone knows that a nation cannot be without a ruler for a day, but there is still something to be done. Another rumor is that Tai Butian did not hesitate to kill his own father for the throne. And before his father's body was even cold, he hurriedly ascended the throne. His nature is cold, heartless, and unfilial. He deserves to be punished by the whole world. For this matter, Buchu, you will be in charge of fabricating it." "Yes." "Third, when Tai Shi died, my army attacked. At that time, Tai Long Cheng was at the border and could not leave. Haha, we all know that he could not leave, but Tai Long Cheng did not go back to attend the funeral. This is the truth." Diwu Qingro said, "Thus there are rumors. One is that Tai Long Cheng gathered his own troops and did not accept the new emperor. He wanted to rebel. The second is that Tai Long Cheng thought that his brother's death was not clear, so he did not dare to go back. But when Tai Long Cheng went back, he would ask Tai Butian for an explanation. Iron Cloud's internal strife is imminent. Buchu, these matters are for you to handle." "Yes." "Also, even though Du Shi is missing, we can make a story out of it. Say that Tai Butian killed Du Shi in order to seize the throne and to let his father return to heaven. This rumor must be clever and naturally spread to those who have dealings with Du Shi, such as aristocratic families or sects. Du Shi's son can help with this." "Yes." Han Buchu's expression became more and more admiring. Diwu Qingro's plans, even though they were only rumors, were extremely vicious. As long as they were properly controlled, the effect would be great. The most terrifying thing in the world was the mouths of the common people. As long as the common people believed it to be true, then, through word of mouth, even a false rumor would become true. For the sake of stabilizing the throne, Tai Butian let King of Hell Chu massacre meritorious officials and old officials who were loyal to Tai Shi. Even Iron Cloud's Saint Tang Xn Sheng became a spy. This is the biggest joke in the world. Do you understand? Understood. Hurry up and do it. Di Wuqing smiled warmly and murmured, even though King of Helchu ruined one of my great plans, but how can I let you do as you please? Gao Xing said, Prime Minister, if this is the case at the border, should we allow the soldiers to relax a bit? After all, the weather is very cold right now. Many soldiers are suffering from frostbite. Some even froze to death. Di Wuqing's eyebrows twitched. He pondered for a moment and said, use all of your financial resources to send cotton clothes to the border. However, the military oppression must continue. We are suffering, but Iron Cloud is suffering even more than we are. Moreover, with such rumors spreading everywhere, we cannot let Tai Longqing go back. Yes. Golden Horse Riders Department should be properly reorganized during this time. King-level Master Yin should rest well. Di Wuqing said warmly, in this cold weather, Golden Horse Riders Department should not move out for the time being. Take care of King-level Master Kong's funeral. When the time comes, I will personally go and send King-level Master Kong off. Yes. Jing Minghun and Yin Wu Tian agreed at the same time. When Kong Shang-Xn was mentioned, their noses turned sour. They choked and said, thank you, Prime Minister. As for the sects, let King of Helchu suffer. Carry out part of Beyond the Heavens sect's plan in this cold weather. Let the big sects attack Beyond the Heavens sect. We cannot destroy it, but we must kill some of its people. Try to kill as many as possible. Di Wuqing said casually, I heard that King of Helchu's master is called Meng Chao Ran? If his master dies, I wonder if King of Helchu will be sad? Even if King Chu Ran is inhumane, I am afraid he will shed a few tears. Gao Xing said with a smile. In the depths of his eyes, there was a hidden chill. Yes, Di Wuqing's series of methods were a combination of sinister and vicious. If it was me who was against Di Wuqing, I can imagine how badly I would be in trouble right now. Now all of this is being done by King of Helchu and Tai Butian. These two people must not be feeling too good. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.